like to call this board meeting to order at 6:46. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. And keep Sergeant Major Robinson's family in prayer, because he just passed and they had the funeral, so thank you. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Monica, may we have roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Here.
Mr. Moreno?
Here.
Mrs. Quintana?
Here.
Mr. Rolla?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
I'd like to have to approve the minutes for December 11th.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the meeting minutes of December 11th, 2018.
A second.
So moved.
Discussion? Monica, roll call, please.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
I'd like to have a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
May I have a second?
Madam Chair, I second the agenda, please.
Monica, any discussion on it? If not, roll call, Monica.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
And right now, we're going to do recognitions and celebrations. And I believe that's
Yes,
Dr. Abrego.
yes. Board President, Mr. Martin Pearson, Principal of Adams City Middle School, has some recognitions for our governing board. Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Good evening, President Quintana, members of the board, and Dr. Abrego. My name is Martin Pearson. I am the proud principal of Adams City Middle School. As a former coach and athletic director, I know firsthand how difficult it is to find coaches who can promote quality sportsmanship, teach important skills, and inspire academic excellence in their athletes. We at ACMS have been lucky enough to have many coaches that match these important characteristics. Tonight, I'd like to recognize the following coaches. For boys soccer, I'd like to recognize Nicole Woodruff, our head coach, and Alex Hayhurst, our assistant coach. And for football, I want to recognize Manny Ortega, the head coach, as well as his dedicated assistant coaches, Mike Hurtado, Wayne Carter, and Cody McMorrin. All of these coaches brought a high level of professionalism and dedication to our wonderful ACMS athletes on a daily basis, both on and off the field. Both our boys soccer and football teams achieved a high level of success this past fall. These wonderful student athletes were asked on a daily basis to practice late into the afternoon, maintain C's or higher in all classes, maintain at least 95% attendance, and maintain good standing behaviorally at ACMS. Additionally, they had to be good athletes. They met these challenges on all fronts. Due to their efforts and the efforts of their coaches, the Adams City Middle School boys soccer team went undefeated during their 6 league games and went on to win both the semifinal and final games, guaranteeing them the 2018-2019 league championship. The football team achieved a 7-1 record and also went on to win the 2018-2019 league championship. We want to offer our congratulations to all Adams City Middle School boys soccer and football coaches and the fine young athletes for all their success during the 2018 season. Awesome. Thank you.
Have him come up here. Tommy, have him come up here in front so we can take a picture.
Everybody come up here to the front.
Thank you, thank you.
Line up. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Cool.
All right.
Good job, guys.
Good job, guys. Good job. Congratulations.
How's it going?
Oh, that's fine.
Great job, guys.
Thank you.
What? Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thanks. Congratulations.
I like that.
Make sure we guys stand up so we'll all get you in the picture. We'll get a picture with everyone.
And then the students, if you're willing to take one knee, that way we can see the folks behind you. Yes.
This is a big group.
It's only about half.
Really? Wow.
Great, and then coaches and school staff here, this way, just hold it.
I got a tall one.
Great, everybody looking right here. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Would Mr. Pearson, would any of them like to have words? That would be great.
That'd be awesome.
Any of your coaches?
Our students or coaches want to talk? Speak to the board? Of course you do. I'll help you out. Is it on wheels? Maybe better to ask a question.
I'm sure someone there loves to talk.
It's got to be Mr. Ortega.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Thank you for recognizing the football team. They've been an exceptional group. I hope Mrs. Woodruff will get up also. They went undefeated. What makes my group so exceptional is these kids have been with me for 2 years now. Last year we started the season 0-2-1, and we made the final seed in the playoffs and won it all. This year they repeated and won it again. So these kids are really exceptional, and I think they're great students. Never have any of them give us any problems. So I'm so proud of them. That's all I have to say. Nicole? Thank you again.
Thank you.
Hi, if I haven't met you, I'm Nicole Woodruff. I first wanted to thank Alex Hayhurst, my assistant coach, and Manny and Hector for being here. Thank you. Two of our most outstanding players and athletes. This season has been by far the best season I've ever had coaching. I had the hardest working students ever, and I would say the best kids in the whole school on my team. I've never loved and cared for a group as much as this group. So thank you for recognizing us.
Thank you.
I'd just like to thank Mr. Ortega for spending all his time. I think he's been in our district for over 20, 25 years, because I remember when him and I were coaching at Adams City High School back in the 80s or 90s, somewhere. It's too old for me to remember. But it takes a special individual to stay in our district and work with our young people and have the tremendous success that he has had, both at the high school when I was there and now at the middle school. So thanks a lot for all your time, Manny.
Thank you. Thank you, students. It's just great to hear that academically you're doing it. You're not in any trouble. I think that's awesome. And you have a will to play sports. And I hope it rubs off on the other kids, because I think you stay in the sports, as Mr. Rolla would say, you know, you're going to do really well throughout your school year. Thank you.
And that's all. We just had one recognition, if I'm correct.
Thank you. So if you want to leave, you can, or if you stay here and listen to the rest. So.
We should have taken a picture of the parents, too.
Are the parents here?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Sean,
That's really great.
did you hear the kids' reaction when Mr. Rolla said, back in the 80s or the 90s, they're like, whoa.
You're old.
Bye.
Been a good one to have at Adams City Middle School.
He's old, but so are we.
Okay, next, we have audience comments, and we only have one, and Kevin, I'm guessing you read the BEDH. So come on up, but don't give your address, okay?
Okay, sure.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Abrego. My name is Kevin Clark. I am the senior class president for Adams City High School. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. This is very impromptu, but this year has kind of been a time of contemplation for me, as I'm starting to realize that this year is going to be really transformative for me in kind of the same way that this district is going to go through a transformative period as well. And I feel really grateful to be participating in that, to be a part of the discussion and be a part of that process before I graduate. But I wanted to, let you guys know that just a couple of hours ago I received an email from Columbia University. It is it is my dream school. They have extended me an opportunity to be interviewed. Oftentimes, it's not a certainty that I would be accepted, but it's a really good sign, and I've come to the realization, that I wouldn't have had the opportunity if it wasn't for this district. Despite all of the hardships and the obstacles that this community and this district has gone through, it has turned me into the person that I am, and for that I am eternally grateful. So that's all I wanted to talk about.
Mr.
Is it 2 acceptances, 3 acceptances, 4, 5 now?
5 currently.
Ooh.
If I were to be accepted to Columbia, it would be the 6th one.
Oh, Senator Moreno.
Thank
Kevin.
you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Kevin, congratulations on being granted an interview from Columbia, but let me know when you hear from Georgetown.
Right? Thank you.
Bravo, guy. Bravo.
That is just awesome. Next, we're moving on to Superintendent's report.
Good. Thank you.
Review progress.
Madam President, we have 4 schools who will give us their mid-year progress updates. We will be starting with the Central Elementary, the principal of Central Elementary.
Good evening, Madam Chair, distinguished members of the board, and Superintendent Abrego. Go ahead. How do I work this? There we go. Okay. Okay, so I just want to give you a quick reminder of what our priority challenges were. We at Central have not met the state expectations in academic achievement for math, English language arts, or science, and over 50% of our students are not at grade level in reading. This is according to documented in our UIP. The major improvement strategies that we decided upon were that we would have consistent and aligned instruction and implement tiered systems of support. So, what we've done so far this school year is that we've worked very closely with Schools Cubed. Our leadership has attended one of 2 literacy trainings so far. We'll have our next one next week. We've had 8 full days of observation and feedback from Patty Montgomery. She's our consultant for Schools Cubed. Schools Cubed has supported us ensuring that the whole group instruction is research-based and highly effective. Schools Cube has also supported us in understanding which data to analyze. So when we're looking at DIBELS, for example, there are different components that they've helped us to determine which components will be most effective for us. And they have supported our leadership, Ryan and I, in how best to coach K-3 teachers, kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers, around systematic and explicit instruction. We've also worked closely with Beyond Textbooks this year for our 2nd year. Our new staff has received training. We've been using the instructional calendar to within 3 days of the calendar consistently. We've had visits from the BT consultants at our school, and they've given me specifically a lot of coaching, which then I'm able to pass on to my teachers. We've been using common formative assessments for math, and they are addressed in our bi-monthly data meetings. We have committed to having an uninterrupted reteach and enrich block every single day for every single student in mathematics, as well as in reading. And we have implemented the daily math skills to increase math fluency. Last year, we really struggled with data meetings. There just wasn't enough time in the day, and teachers didn't want to stay after school. And so Ryan and I worked very hard this year to create a schedule that would allow us to embed the data meetings to within the school day. So we have weekly data meetings, and every other week we trade off reading and math. Our specials teachers cover the general ed classroom teachers so that they can spend that time in data meetings. We are tracking this data with formal goal setting sheets every week, and Ryan and I and our instructional coach are providing job embedded coaching during data meetings. As a school, we're also implementing MTSS with a really strong focus on best first instruction. So that's the tier 1, the very first basic level of instruction. We are also focusing on systematic and explicit instruction in reading. We have a weekly problem-solving team that meets to determine what individual students need, and we have ongoing progress monitoring of all subjects for all students. We're also providing other opportunities for professional development for our teachers. They have Foley, which is the foundational reading instruction training. The teachers who didn't receive that training last year are receiving it this year. And we are working with Strive to help teachers with their small group instruction. This next area is the area that we are most proud of. We've been working really hard with student engagement, behavior, and having a positive culture in our school. The majority of our teachers have done Kagan training, so that's been helpful there. We've provided trauma-informed practices training to all of our teachers. That was an optional, that was something that we decided that we needed for our school, and we did that with Kim Sini. Our PBIS team meets at least once a month to talk about the data around behavior and around positive rewards. We have a wellness class that focuses on social emotional skills. We work really hard to make our families feel welcome. We make positive phone calls home. We have a goal bell. When students meet their goals, they get to ring the bell and everybody celebrates for them. That's right at the front of the building, so all of our visitors get to see that. We also have awards assemblies. Ryan and I have been hit in the face with lots of pies and slime this year. The next one is going to be a lot grosser.
Like what?
We're thinking of dressing up like hot dogs and letting the kids get us with ketchup and mustard.
Oh, my.
Only those students they love it. And only those students who are showing academic growth, that's really our push. Those students who are growing academically are the ones who get to pie us and slime us and put ketchup on us. We're really lucky that there's a shower at Central. Yeah. And we're really trying to work to create a hub of resources for our families. They come to us whenever they need anything. And it's exciting to me when a family comes to us and asks for something that isn't necessarily education related, because it tells me that they trust us. So what is all this work for? I'm really, really proud of my kindergarten team. On this chart, it shows 17, 18 year DIBELS scores, and then 18, 19. You'll see that we started out at the beginning of the school year. Ryan, can you go point? I know how to use this machine. So we started out this school year much worse off than we did last year at this time, beginning of the year, top one. And yet, we've been able to show much more growth this year. Our red is much smaller. We only have 22% of our kindergartners in red at this point. The other 50, 60% are in green or blue.
40 to 50.
And I really attribute a lot of that to our work with Schools Cubed, because they've helped me help those teachers. This one is a little bit harder to see the growth because the reds all kind of look the same. But if you'll notice, the greens and the blues on the bottom row are much higher than we started out at the beginning of the school year, and that's in first grade. And then in fifth grade, as you know, as students get older, it gets harder and harder for them to catch up. We're pretty proud of the growth in our blues and greens for fifth grade in reading. So this is a correlation report. In a healthy system, we should be able to move 80% of the kids out of the risk level over the course of the school year. And we should be able to maintain 90 to 95% of students who are performing at benchmark. So at the beginning of the school year, well, as you see in this bottom right-hand side, on average, we have already maintained 88% of our students at these two levels. Thank you. And that's supposed to be over the course of the school year. So we are proud that at this point we're at 88%. 50% of the students moved out of the risk category of yellow. And we know exactly this target of opportunity. We are excited that we have the ability to use the new intervention system, SIPs, to target those remaining students who are in red. And then this data we're pretty excited about. Last year, from fall to winter, we had 123 office referrals and 47 out-of-school suspensions. At this time, this year, we've only had 44 office referrals and 24 school suspensions. And we attribute that to the work that we've done with PBIS and really giving teachers the tools that they need to be able to manage their classrooms and manage their students' behaviors. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions?
Yes. I want to thank you for your presentation, but and your staff for y'all hard work. And I truly appreciate what y'all doing this year and last year and everything. And you walked in the middle of the school year, so I truly appreciate your dedication. And looking at your framework from 2018, you was at a 40%. You was just 2 points away from improvement. My question is that the academic growth that you approaching, all of it was approaching 2018. How are we going to succeed in achievement, academic achievement? How are we going to start moving that?
Well, we can't achieve achievement until we've shown that we can grow. I believe that the work that we're doing will get us there. Research shows that you can't do it overnight, and you're right. I did start mid-year in a system that was pretty, that was lacking in a lot of systems and structures. And over the course of my time at Central, we've really worked to build in some of those systems and structures. So some would say that I was too soft on my staff last year, that too many people liked me, which meant that I wasn't doing my job. But I believe, to the contrary, I believe that to create sustainable growth, we have to build relationships, and we have to build a positive culture where students feel excited to be there and happy to be there. So how? Just the way we're doing it now, building culture and building systems and structures that will create a culture of excellence.
And how many new staff did you receive this year, starting in August?
We had a large number. It was about 12 or 13. Part of that was because we brought over some of Rose Hill. It used to be that the SSN program was at Rose Hill and at Central, but we combined that program into one, and so we had to hire for all of those positions that didn't transfer over to our school. We also had to hire for some positions where I made the decision to move teachers out of positions that were not best for students, and they didn't care for that, so they resigned. And frankly, I'm proud of that, because I make decisions that are best for students. I don't believe that the turnover at my school is going to be as high this year.
And my last question for you. You said teachers did not want to stay after school.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, last year, the data meetings were set up in such a way that every teacher was to have, we were all doing data meetings at the same time, Wednesday afternoons from 3 to 3:15 to 4:15, or whatever the time was. It was an hour after school. We couldn't be in all places at all times, so they weren't getting any support. They were kind of on their own, sort of working on data that they weren't really clear on how to work with. We weren't available to support them, and so it felt like a worthless endeavor. They got paid, so that was the bonus. They got an extra hour on their paycheck, but it wasn't meaningful work. This year, we are doing meaningful work. I am in charge of kindergarten through third grade reading. I do all of those data meetings consistently. My instructional coach does 4-5 reading and K1 math, and Mr. Green does the rest of the data meetings. We split them up, and we meet with them 35 minutes a week, alternating reading and math.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Our next presentation will be by Hanson Elementary, Mr. Todd Nguyen, and he will give us his mid-year update.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Brego. My name is Todd Nguyen. I'm the proud principal of Hanson Elementary, and alongside me is my assistant principal, Ms. Luciana Stokely. So we are going to present where we're at this year with our mid-year, but I'm going to take a little bit different angle than Ms. Valadez did as far as our jumping off point was about climate and culture and creating relationships at Central, or I mean at Hanson with Central. So as we start, this is very intentional. We put our ugly sweater contest at the very beginning of this, faded behind. You have the same packet in front of you. This is the kind of stuff that we need more than anything in our building, is to build trust amongst our staff and our students and our parents. And so as a new principal just coming in this year, I was amazed by the amount of resources we had. When I say resources, I mean people. Adams 14 does a really nice job supporting the buildings with staff. I had a school of 700 kids at my last stop for 5 years in Cherry Creek, and I wasn't supported with this amount of staff. And so I want to thank you guys for that, because if we stay consistent, the kids will benefit. So where we're at with this is, if you do the same thing, you're going to get the same results over and over again. And it felt like we've been just interviewing teachers and stuff, and it sounds like the same stuff was just the nonsense, the political nature of the school, and just the relationships in the building. So what we're really working on was our culture, and I've defined culture. I'm going to go through this real fast so I can answer questions for you. We start off by giving a Hawk Award, a Hanson Hawk Award. It was a lantern. I started that to make sure that our teachers feel valued. Our first teacher to get that was a preschool teacher who's served as an educator for over 30 years. And she's the one that's in our mascot at the homecoming parade. She's been out in front, and she's changed her attitude, and she supports us in every way. And so she's been leading the way like a lantern. And she said to our staff it's the best thing she's ever received. And she actually kept the lantern herself and went and bought one to pass on to the next teacher. So she wouldn't give up the lantern. We also throw fish. If you've been to Seattle on the fish market, they throw slimy fish. We throw Swedish fish. The thing that makes them great in the Seattle fish market is their culture. And so we try to replicate the culture by using some of their philosophies about being able to choose your attitude and being there and being present and making people's day. The other reason that we couldn't keep things the same is because when our teachers went to school, they were students in a school that looked different than our school. And a lot of the teachers had taught in schools that looked different than our school. In a typical school, and I understand you just got done speaking with Patty Montgomery, so I'm sure she explained this in great detail. We're what they call an upside-down pyramid. And so the majority of our kids right now, currently, what I walked into, the majority of our students are not at grade level. That's not what a typical school that I've ever been a principal looks like. It's the opposite. And so really you're looking at in our school trying to do it in an entirely different way and thinking outside the box. And in order to think outside the box, you've got to let loose of the reins and do something different than you've ever done. And to be a teacher, to make a change is a hard thing to do. And the only way teachers are going to make change is if they trust. And that's the bottom line. So, how come it's not changing here?
You broke it.
I broke it. I need to make some change here. I think it's Luis's video is messing this whole thing up. Are you guys okay if I just talk you through this? See, I'm old school. That's why I gave you the slides, just in case. So one of the things we talked about is this change is major, right? And so the only thing when we talk about change, we start talking about transformative change. That's a major, major change in your life. And the thing that I could best exemplify a major change was like the old school movie Gremlins, when they went from this cute mogwai to a gremlin. And so that's my best example of what we need to do. And I'm not asking us to become gremlins. I'm saying let's go to the other side. Let's be the mogwais here. And but that's a very great visual of a transformative change. That's the same person right there in that picture. A mogwai and a gremlin. That's the same person, and our teachers can be the same thing too. So we can either make it or break it. I also showed them the timeline of Adams 14 in Hanson Elementary. And I used this from something that Tipton presented to us as administrators. And the only thing I really added was the faces of the principals. And the faces of the principals below there, it really hasn't mattered who the principal was at Hanson Elementary. And the staff there has been the same staff for a long time. And so what I'm trying to get the teachers to understand is it's really up to them. It hasn't mattered who the principal was. It hasn't mattered who the superintendent was. The kids come in and out of the doors, and until the teachers are on the same page, change is not going to happen. And so that's where we really, really have been working. That next page is about structural framework. The teachers are the arrows, our systems are the arrows, our programs are the arrows. If we're all going in the opposite directions, we're going to go back to that first slide. Nothing's going to change. And so we have to move in the same direction. Next slide, a little bit of humor. I was talking about these people on the boat. I had a feeling that's what it felt like at Hanson. It was the other guys, the other teacher. To me, we're all Hanson. If that boat has a hole in it, we're all going down. And so it's our job as a school, no matter what your role is to plug the holes in the boat so that we can keep it afloat. Another Tipton slide that I stole to show the teachers was about sustainability and long-term effect. I learned something that day because I was always about getting teacher buy-in and getting staff buy-in in my previous role as a principal. And what I learned that day was the only way to make significant change, transformational change, was to get full ownership. So if you look at the next slide, I gave it to them, and it's very uncomfortable for me as a principal to give up control. I'm kind of a control freak. And so to make it a more of a shared model, a collaborative-based model, it's hard for me because I want to be in control, but I know the change is only going to happen as if they have the ownership as well. And so you can see this was a slide I used for them, and I told them, it's theirs. We're going to talk about every hiring decision we make, every program we bring in, and then we follow it up with, you're either on the bus or you're not, but you just can't get in front of the bus, okay? Because our Hanson bus is going to run people over if they're in front of us. So I believe our teachers are on board. I haven't had anyone push back on this because they're part of the decision making, and I always give them the why we do things the way we do. And if they want to make the change, they got to be part of the solution. Part of that is our PLCs. Dina just talked about that, our professional learning communities. We also made a schedule change in our building so that I didn't have to worry about talking to teachers before school or after school. Our teachers are doing that during school, and I talked to you guys about that when we spoke about the UIP. The next slide is the agreements. This is real for our teachers. Go to the source. We're not going to do gossip. Don't make assumptions. If you don't participate, don't complain. Be part of the solution. That seems like rudimentary behavior, right? These are adults. I'm an adult, but we still have to follow this stuff so that we can work together. So we talk about this stuff every day. to try to be transparent and just air out our feelings. On some fun things to talk about, our families. I'm very blessed to be where I'm at. I have the best family, some best parents, best kids. They're supportive. We engage them. That's a picture from CU. Took kids on a bus to go see the CU football game, get them on college campus. Our homecoming, we filled the whole bus. We only have 200 elementary kids, K-5, and I believe we probably had the most kids proportionately per school in the whole district there. We're keeping to tradition. We have Mexican dance, traditional Mexican dance, mileage club, movie nights. We're getting them in our doors. We're keeping them there. We're taking our kids places. The next slide, we had Bigfoot. You guys missed this. Bigfoot actually came to our school. We talked about books. We gave all the kids the books. We're taking them places. The art museum came to our school. We're trying to get them out and seeing other things, learning applicable about real life things. But yet we're still keeping the same traditions that Hanson is really proud of, that's unique to what we do at our school. And the spy literacy conversation, and this is Hanson's going to be really involved in these conversations, and we want to be part of these decisions that the board makes, because although we may be small, that's a mighty community right there. And so at the end of the day, we're still just trying to keep it about kids. We're talking about El Defo is a book about someone who has disabilities, and we're having our kids understand differences. And we're doing that through our social worker, and we bought a mascot, and that's Miss Bernie Lopez and that mascot there, 31-year vet. Don't tell our kids who it is, please. They think it's me, and she's about 8 inches shorter than me. First day of school, we rolled out the red carpet, and I did my announcer voice, and we welcomed every classroom in, and those are teachers and staff members with noisemakers, giving them the royal treatment as they came into our school, because they're kings and queens, and we're trying to treat them that way. So Ms. Stokely, she told me we're at 10 minutes, so that's too long. But I did include in that packet the instructional components of this as well, okay? So I don't think you can reach them until you teach them. And so we're trying to make relationships first, but I don't want you to think we're not doing things. We've also worked with Schools Cubed and Beyond Textbooks and outside consultants. And I've included that in our schedule and all the changes we've made for you guys if you want to read that, or if you have any questions. I've also put a narrative in there about all the updates that we've been doing, not updates, but events we've been doing. This is just the ones that I could think of, and it's a long list. There's a lot of great stuff going on in our school, and our kids are good. When you want to talk about referrals, I think I've suspended maybe 4 kids. I mean, I don't have kids in my office. Teachers do a great job making relationships with them, and if I need to have a parent come in, they're there in a second. This will improve scores. This is the difference between coaching hey, we all have great players, but the difference is what motivates them, and it's the relationships and the motivation. So, do you have any questions for us?
Yes, I do. Thank you for your presentation. Welcome to Adams 14. Excuse me. I'm looking at your Hanson 2017-2018 performance framework. And as I look at it, Hanson had 100% participation rate. That's outstanding. That's really good. But that was last year. Mm-hmm. So I'm asking, I hope we can get that 100% this year too, since we're hearing how good and how involved everybody is in the district, in your school. But my question is, looking at your framework, and since I was educated about academic growth, how can you improve the math, the CMAS math part at Hanson? Because so far I'm looking, does not meet last year. So how are y'all improving the math at Hanson?
The conversation that we're having right now was around literacy. So although we made that growth in literacy, you can't stop with that. I'll answer the math question. We're being consistent. We're trying to use the same thing. Currently in Beyond Textbooks right now, teachers have options to use different pieces of it, of the resources. We're asking our teachers to use the same resource. We're asking them to use the math and focus and use the scope and sequence. And so what I'm trying to tell you is we're trying to use the same language for all kids. So what we found in our school is the system of structures were messed up. You could be in kindergarten and get phonics instruction or math instruction or any other instruction, and then go into the next year and hear it presented to you with totally different academic language. So we're really focused on consistency with academic language, so kids, especially our second language learners, can hear the same thing year after year after year and get deeper in their understanding of academic curriculum or language. Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense. I understand. But that's why I was asking, because last year, math, Hanson meets, but we didn't do none of that in math, so.
Yeah, and I wasn't there last year, but I'm gonna own the data because they're my kids. And so our focus right now, though, has been literacy, especially with our PLC groups, because we can't lose the momentum that we're making there, and that's where Schools Cubed has really helped us out. So the second semester, our PLC focus switches to math.
Thank you.
Mr. Wynn, I was happy to see that you've made quite an effort to bring various members from the community into your school and vice versa. You know, you've listed a number of field trips that your kids go on. And I think that's a really powerful thing to do. It's a great background for the learning environment and so forth. But I've also heard elsewhere that field trips in general are fairly expensive for a school or a district or classroom to undertake. And so I wanted to know how you kind of solve that problem, and if it is a financial constraint, if it were ameliorated, would you do more field trips?
That's a great question, and the more we have available to us, the more opportunities we'll take. Currently, we seek things that are free, that are sponsored through different groups, like the Denver Art Museum. Some places even pay for busing. The group that reached out to us from the Denver Center of Performing Arts, or was that's a free opportunity for our kids. So the University of Colorado, Mr. Denmark, our district athletic director, he arranged that. That was free as well. So we're really utilizing free resources that are out there, and to provide our kids with exposure to things, like you said, to get that background, get more tools in their toolbox and more exposure. So, and yes, if I had more money, I would take them more places.
Do you take those resources just out of the principal's school budget?
So far, we have not had to take a lot, if any, out of our budget because they've been free, including busing. But if there is a time where we need to, we will take that out of our activity fund if needed. If it's about resources and supplies, we can take that out of a school budget.
The busing is free?
Some of the, like to the CU, part of that, I'm not sure where Mr. Denmark, but they used to offer that at CU. So I took 1,500 kids, and CU paid for 23 buses at one time. So I don't know. Chris just called me and said, "Let's go." So
okay.
I'm on the bus.
Okay.
But I can't tell you any more about where that money came from.
Like the museum, they'll give you a sponsorship or a grant if we qualify as a Title I school. They will pay part of busing for us. So they will send us a check. Typically that one is about $75 per bus that we need. So at least they'll help support the cost of transportation.
Okay, because I just had heard a much higher figure for essentially the fee for the bus and then the driver and.
Depends
so
on where
forth.
and how
So-
long. Yep.
Right, yeah,
So they
okay.
bid it out, yep.
I'm trying to explain, or I'm going to try to explain, and you tell me if I'm wrong, for our governing board, because I think they're trying to understand the difference between growth and achievement. So if I say it wrong, please correct me. I'm a third grade student at your school, but I'm functioning at a first grade level in math. Usually in math, first grade it's addition, second grade subtraction, third grade multiplication. So if I'm a third grade student, I'm going to be tested on CMAS on multiplication, but I'm only functioning at first grade level, so that third grade teacher has to help me master addition, and I don't have subtraction because I'm only working at first grade level, so that teacher has to help me with the subtraction, and then also get me to multiplication for me to be able to get that achievement. So you can't get to achievement until you get the growth and have the student function at that grade level.
So we are behind the 8 ball when we walk in. When our students are walking in not at grade level, we immediately take the academic achievement factor out. We will get 0 points for those. We get our points from academic growth, and that's why it's very important for us to understand when we talk to our teachers to make sure that they realize even if they grow a kid a year and a half, they still won't hit that level of academic achievement if they come in 2 to 3 years behind. That's the upside down pyramid that we're talking about. That's what puts us in a dilemma in our district as far as earning points on that framework. Kids are not coming school ready, and that immediately puts you behind on an academic achievement level. So we gain, the points that we can gain the most is in our academic growth, and we need our teachers to understand that and applaud them. They are growing kids, and it's still not good enough. We're asking our teachers to grow kids 2 to 2.5 years, which is, if we do that, they'll write books about us forever, because this is something, and we want to do that. That's the goal. But it's really, really hard. It's really hard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have, I believe, another rookie principal to Adams, but they've been principals for a long time. We're going to have Rose Hill give us an update. Mr. Luis Camas.
Good evening, board. It's good to see you guys again. I've got so I'm Luis Camas, I'm the principal. Pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be here with you guys. I've got my teacher here, Jessica Mintz. She's been at Rose Hill for how many years?
5 years.
5 years. District?
District
8 years. So she can kind of help fill in some of the gaps and some questions too, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get going here as it's 7:40. A couple things. I want to make sure that I kind of make sure I'm clear as can be about Rose Hill. So, as Dr. Brego mentioned, it's my first 4 months at Rose Hill, and I love my job. I love my teachers and my students. I just want to make sure that, can you guys hear me okay? I can, okay. I'll speak a little closer to the mic, but I just want to make sure the board understands this, and that is, there's that data out there about CMAS data, literacy and math, and the school performance framework harvest.
Oh, I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, you keep referring to that?
Yes.
There's another data piece, though, too, that I don't think I just found out about as well, and that is the Teaching and Learning Conditions of Colorado Survey, the TLCC. I was looking at our data, showing to some teachers as well. Several times, 24 teachers took this last year, Jessica, 24 teachers. And when it says the school is led by an effective team, we had a rating of 0%. When we had a question about, I would recommend this school as a good place for students to learn, we had 2%. So again, this is a Colorado survey about teaching and learning, and that's some of our scores that we had from 17-18, okay? There's that data. Then we have the data of the school performance framework. that also tells us that we're about 5%, 4%. We're extremely low, okay? We also have staff that have been through 6, 7 principals. We have a lot of traumatized students, traumatized staff, and we have a community that has not had much trust in the leadership in the school. So that's what I've inherited, and I told Dr. Abrego back in July that I welcome that challenge. I think my experience as a child, as a teacher, as an assistant principal, and as a principal up north have prepared me for this opportunity. And so, like I said earlier, I love my job, but I want you to know where we're at with this data. There's teacher data, then there's student data. And there, to me, there's a direct correlation. They're both extremely low. So that's why my presentation tonight is about where are we with teachers' perception, culture, and climate, because research is very clear, and Eric Jensen and others, if teachers and staff do not feel respected, do not feel valued, are not part of the leadership, there will be no student engagement. The school performance framework you're referring to is going to be 0. You have to have the team aspect, you have to have that bonding, that connection with teachers, with principals, before you're going to have the student engagement. That's clear with poverty schools. Again, it's clear. So that's why the focus tonight is what are we doing to kind of get us in a healthy spot so we can really attack the achievement. And we are attacking the achievement. That's another thing I want to tell you clearly is we are collaborating with Patty Montgomery, Donna Bright, Susan Resnick. It's been an amazing 4 months at Rose Hill. Amazing, and we have this data, but then we're expected to do all these other things as well, and I'm all in. I'm just want to explain to you that it's not my 5th year or 3rd year or 2nd year, and I've had to hire about 15 new teachers in July and August. So again, just want to make sure you guys understand what actually has occurred at Rose Hill. Principal left, I think, in June, and there was a huge fallout with teachers. So just a lot of newness, and I think that's a great thing because now it is our culture. It is now our opportunity to serve our kids. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that as to where Rose Hill has been, okay? Because I don't think many of our teachers knew that, or maybe did you guys know about this? You know the percentages? Okay. Well, can we get started now with the video? Miss, can you play that? I just want to play a quick video about our students real quick.
Buenos dias todos. And welcome to Rose Hill Weekly News. I'm Alex. And I am Stacy. Please stand to join Miss Stutz's 5th grade class reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the reading and writing stories during literacy. They save all of their stories they write in their writing folders.
A kindergarten class that's already starting to write, and this was back in December.
There will be step practice today.
Kind of ends there, and I want to go ahead and get going with my slides. So that's student productions. So that's very important that 5th graders are actually involved in talking about instruction, talking about learning from other grade levels. I think that's very important. Again, a part of our environment and culture. So this mission and vision, we developed together as a staff. It wasn't something that I wrote. We wrote it together. Again, part of our culture and climate. What we want is a vibrant environment and culture. Why? Research says that's how kids will actually feel safe, feel included, feel like they can take risks, they can learn. One of my favorite quotes, I got this from Dr. Patterson. this is really at the core of my leadership, and I try to display this every day. It's not what I know, it's not what I've been through, it's whether or not I can honestly love what I do and honestly love those that I lead, including students, parents, and my teachers. And this to me is something that, again, it's at my core. Research also talks about you have to have opportunities for kids. It can't just be reading and math. There's got to be other things for them to do. So at Rose Hill we have a step team, we have archery club, we have a speed stacking, we have the broadcasting going on. We recognize kids weekly, and I also recognize staff weekly during the Panthers of the Week. And that's the top right picture. The production is the bottom left. And then we get into some, again, just up there I talk about the survey, because that's, if you're wondering, well, why is the principal focused so much on listening, connecting? That's because of the data that I received from the survey from last year. I think we're definitely becoming a united team that respects and values each other. And we've developed a clear mission and vision to guide our work. That's also, again, very, very important. Academic growth and achievement. Establish relationships and trust with students. Structures and routines for our students. Collaborating, planning schools queue with math consultants and developing focus areas. That's something we've been doing during our PLC work, which is when we talk with each other about how can we best support our students. Biweekly PLCs, analyzing student data. We've had different folks from our district. We've had, I know I've had Janelle Fuller, Erica Tapia, Donna Bright from Schools Cubed, Susan Resnick from Math and Focus. The ELD team with Cheryl Green and Eileen Harder and Tanya Lopez, they've all come at different times of the school year to collaborate with our teachers. Why? To get at the academic achievement, the growth. Also too, we talked about, again, the action steps are there, empowering teachers, evolving teachers. One of the things I want to highlight that I didn't mention, and that is payday treats. We actually share meals together as a staff, like on payday month. It's something that I think Karen Ernst and Jill Gamberg, who've been there for a long time at Rose Hill, and sharing a meal with your staff, sharing a meal together, that's that bonding and connecting that I think our staff has needed for years. I know I welcome that, and it's something that's very, very important to see us sharing meals. We actually shared one right before winter break. It was amazing food as well. So increasing our belief that together we can serve and lead our community. Action steps for academic to increase our points. To me, it's not about increasing points, it's about serving students and serving the community. That's what I'm after. And delivering literacy and math instruction. If I can get to the math instruction, one thing that Mr. Wynn or Todd, that's my buddy, math and focus, but also BT has been helping us with math. If I can get to that question now about our school performance framework. So our teachers now have a better understanding of, number one, what standard is essential. So what are they actually going to teach that's essential? Number two, math and focus kind of helps us with how to teach that. And we've had Susan Resnick come to our school. I find her to be valuable in collaborating, helping our teachers with giving them feedback. Like I mentioned board earlier in my talk, is we have a lot of new teachers. So they need to have that clarity as to what to teach, how to teach it, and then get some feedback. So that's what we've been doing with literacy and with math as well. Being systemic and explicit, that's very important as well to address, again, the needs of our students. One thing I noticed about at Rose Hill, we have a lot of English language learners. So we definitely, the ELD block this year is expanded. We have collaborated with our ELD team, like I mentioned earlier, about what does best instruction look like for English language learners. In my opinion, over the years at Rose Hill, one of the reasons why we have not scored well is because it's become more of a language test than a literacy test. That's been an issue, in my opinion, from what I've seen. In other words, it's been like a Chinese test for our students instead of a literacy test. That's what some of the reasons why we've been struggling. And of course, the other ones have been lack of leadership, the lack of unity, all those kind of things have really played a role at Rose Hill. Since we last spoke, I want to make sure I give a lot of credit to my teachers. We actually had a Saturday training at Rose Hill on December 1st, I think it was. 16 of 18 teachers came to a training, a writing training, step up to training at Rose Hill Elementary School. In the night before, they had a BT training here at Adams 14 till 5 o'clock, 5:30 that Friday on November 30th. They were here that late. The next day, 16 of 18 of them came to Rose Hill for a full day training on writing, a step up to writing. Why? Because our students need those skills and our teachers need that professional development to be able to teach that. So again, that's something that research, again, you need to provide teachers with professional development and a need for the students so we can now really get into that learning. And again, I speak to dedication of our students, Super Kids. I'm so glad our district, and I agree with Todd, Adams 14 is very, very supportive. I feel supported with all the different things that we're getting to help our teachers, to help our students. It's been amazing to be a part of that. Our teachers have been training SIPs. This morning I came here for about 15 minutes to check on, see how that was going. Teachers received it very well. That's an intervention training, intervention to help kids who are struggling with reading, with literacy, trauma-informed instruction. I had Kim Sini come out, I think back in October or maybe end of September, to talk about, we have a lot of traumatized kids at Rose Hill, so she was able to help us with that as well. Beyond textbooks, training on that, amplified dibbles, that is more training, and ELDL Achieve. Some of my teachers are here late. I was telling some of the principals that we have a lot of new staff, so they have a lot of training going on. So training to get that PD that they need to become better teachers, to better support our students. Jessica, anything you want to mention? Anything else?
No, I just wanted to mention that a reason why many teachers showed up on Saturday when they didn't have to work was because we want to do what's best for kids, and we know we need the help, and we appreciate our leadership this year that values us.
So again, I just want to make sure that it's got to be about addressing and loving what you're doing and loving the kids and the staff. That's how we're really going to get that push. But I want to make sure that I'm clear, and that is we are doing everything we can in the last 4.5 months. I'm so proud of our teachers. I've told them this before, and I'll say it here in front of the board. To me, they're becoming my heroes because they are the homeroom teacher, they are the interventionist, they are the counselor that we don't have, they are the parent, they are the, at times, friend, the listener. I mean, they are everything. I mean, we're still not quite there with the staffing that I think we need at our school. And my teachers, like Jessica, they're just doing so much. I've never been a part, and this is my 24th year. I started in '95 as a teacher, and I've never seen a staff take on this challenge like my staff is doing. It's amazing to be a part of. I am energized every day. I send emails out just about every day to staff to communicate, to update, to encourage them, because they really are an amazing group. I mean, the things that we're dealing with is, when I tell some of my colleagues up north, they tell me to please write about it. So I'm starting to, I think Jeanette or someone had asked me to write, or to write something, so I've started. Because there's so many amazing things that we're doing, not just at Rose Hill, but I listening to my colleagues in Adams 14. So I'm sure Harvard's got some questions about the SBF. You got some questions?
It's gonna make me cry. But thank you. And to see Rose Hill staff and the community is good, and I applaud you personally for coming, taking Rose Hill and just doing what you do. And I think for your teachers to come in on a Saturday, because I wrote down in my notes, did they get paid? Because I didn't heard they got paid.
Sir, Ray?
Okay, because I've been hearing.
Well, I would have heard about it if I would have heard about that one.
Yeah, because, I've been hearing they don't come because they don't get paid and, so much stuff. But thank them for coming. Appreciate that, too. But Rose Hill has had a lot of turnaround. And based on staff saying this year they appreciate their staff this year. So, I hope they appreciate their staff every year if they teaching, from what I understand. That's just my personal opinion. But I'm going to keep going. And just looking at the framework, they have done a lot last year. So I'm assuming with a 34.9, 34.8, most likely they should, with your leadership and the leadership of your staff, they should hit the 42 to move into improvement, which I'm sure they should be able to do, which is good. But the most important thing I hope the district, all our elementary schools, all our district schools will look at, because most of the elementary schools percentile, I hope they start looking at not just the 15% of 722, but start looking at the 85 percentile of the 759, not 50%. And what I mean by that is start thinking higher. We got a gentleman that's going to Columbia, not Georgetown, which he went to Regis. I'm biased. Hey! But what I'm saying is, we have this district, people put this cloud over us, that we know we better than this cloud. And we set the bar lower, and 722 is low for 15%. And listen to your staff to come in on a Friday and do PD, and then come in on a Saturday and do PD because they want to do it. I think the bar should be higher. And I always say the sky's the limit because 759 is 85 percentile. And if you're talking about growth, you're still growing our students, and some of those students at 85 percentile will hit achievement. And those teachers should be recognized. And I strongly feel that we can do this collectively as a group. And no matter who your principal is or who the assistant principal are, we can do this, And I do applaud you, seriously, and thank you. So I'm done right now.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because, and Jamie told me not to talk too much. I'll be quick, Jamie. So, and that is, I agree with you 100%. This whole thing, I'm hurt. I'm hurt by what happened last year, and I wasn't even there. And that is, kids aren't learning. They have not been learning where they should be. And I agree with you that we can't have just a certain number. That's why I think, I encourage, just challenge, and I ask my teachers and students, please strive and challenge yourself, because there should be no limit. There shouldn't be no 50% or 80%. Just really strive and challenge yourself to I don't know, just strive and challenge yourself. So I've been telling them every morning is challenge yourself, strive. In español decimos con ganas. So, con ganas, just do the best you can. So thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes.
I just want to thank you because, like we said, and you said, Rose Hill has had a hard, probably 6 years, at least, over there. Different, if it wasn't the principal, it was the teachers. If it wasn't the teachers, it was the principal. It was a combination. And when the top is bad, it rubs off onto the kids, and kids won't learn in that environment. So I want to thank you and your team for doing it.
Thank you. And we know we have a long ways to go.
Yes.
And that's why I'm saying every day, let's strive, let's challenge, let's just push ourselves, let's push it together. So thank you.
I think as long as you're working together as a team, you're going to make it. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas? Mr. Thomas, I just would like to say that Rose Hill is one of the schools that I visit periodically, and I've been impressed by, I would say, it's your personal touch that I think sets the climate and the tone for the whole school, and that's invaluable.
Thank you. I love what I do. I mean, I'm excited. I even kind of missed them a little bit during break. So, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next, we have our update from Adams City High School, Ms. Gabriela Maldonado.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the school board and Dr. Abrego. My name is Gabriela Maldonado, and I'm the proud principal of Adams City High School. And today I have two of my assistant principals. I have Barry Fox. Can you guys hear me? Barry Fox and...
Just speak in your mom voice.
Barry Fox and Robert Kelly. So I'm going to give you an update as far as where we are as Adams City High School. I want to share with you our mission, and our mission is that all of our Adams City High School students will graduate college, career, and community ready. So again, I want to say thank you to the board. We've been very fortunate as far as getting the support that we need to be able to, again, carry this work out and making sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our students. So one of the ways that we have organized ourselves, and I just want to share this, is really focusing on building our leadership capacity, not only with our leadership team, but also with our teachers. So I want to say thank you, because this year I was able to hire a master scheduler that was able to help our counselors. At the same time, I was able to have a college readiness dean that was able to also help our counselors with the workload. That's made a big difference in our school and also with our counseling and providing those supports. The other piece is that I'm able to have department leads and PLC leaders that are able to, again, help us to build the capacity and really making sure that we're meeting the needs of our students. And again, because there's a lot of work that has to be done at the high school, we want to make sure that there's consistency. We're providing support for all of our teachers, and these are just the ways that we are organized. Again, with the instructional capacity as well, we want to make sure everything that we do is in a line and supporting our teachers to hit those targets and really become experts at acceleration and really, again, be able to differentiate for all the different learning needs. And as you was shared earlier in our elementary schools, teachers at the elementary have to be able to do that work as well, and really are trying to make sure that all of the kids are making 2 to 3 years gains. And that's something, again, that we are focused at the high school as well. And as you can see, our ultimate goal is to make sure that we hit our outcomes, which we're helping our kids make good decisions so they don't have referrals. Again, making sure that we are increasing our attendance, and I know this was a question, why is it 95%? And 95% is the reason if kids are there 95% of the time, they're going to do well on their exams. And also make sure that they hit their college readiness benchmarks. We want to make sure all of our kids also stay on track. We want to make sure that if they're attending class, they're also receiving credit and graduating within 4 years. And again, supporting them with the college application, the FAFSA applications, and again, increasing the number of students that receive the seal of biliteracy and all of the other assessments. So that's kind of how we realize that we have to make sure that we hit those student outcomes. The school performance framework. We understand that, again, at the high school, 30% is based on status achievement, 40% is on growth, and then 30% is on post-secondary workforce readiness. Our major improvement strategies is, again, we want to make sure that we are focusing on our data and helping our teachers really make sure that they're looking at that and adjusting their instructional practices. College readiness, we want to make sure that there's strong alignment within all the 4 grades and that our teachers are really implementing a curriculum that's going to help our students hit college readiness benchmarks. And then the other piece is really providing that professional development to our teachers so they're able to do the work, take that ownership, and really be able to be experts at acceleration for all of our students and meet the different culturally and linguistically diverse needs that our students have. And the last one is culture and climate. We want to make sure, again, that we're creating a climate and culture that is conducive to learning, where our kids are engaged and our teachers are really being culturally responsive to their needs. And again, these were some of the strategies that we had outlined in our UIP as far as in these major improvement strategies. And I'm just going to go over them really quickly. Our professional development, again, is making sure that we are focused on really providing that professional development when it comes to ELD, college readiness, and differentiated instruction. And college readiness is the same thing, as we're just really having teams that are really focused on looking at that data when it comes to on track to graduate. Counselors are meeting, they're looking at how many kids are on track with doing weekly grades, making sure that our students are getting that additional support when it comes to the PSAT, SAT through the Khan Academy practice exams. ICAP, making sure, again, kids know what they need to do at each grade level to make sure that they are college and career ready. And again, selecting courses that they need so that way they stay engaged. And then the other piece is really providing those advanced opportunities for our students to take AP courses or college courses. The last one is climate and culture. When it comes to attendance, we do have attendance trackers that we analyze on a weekly basis. And again, our SST teams, our student success teams, which consist of our AP, our counselors, our attendance liaisons, our school psychologists, our social worker, working together how they can better support our students and what are the interventions that they're providing to ensure that kids are coming to school every day. And if they need other supports, again, making sure that we make referrals. The other piece is, again, checking as far as how many kids are passing their classes on a weekly basis and what supports they need. One of the things that we try to do this semester is provide support through Metro tutoring, and that was something that it was hard to get kids to come after school. So one of the things we did is we shifted and are doing a push-in model. So our Metro tutors are now in our intervention classes or in credit recovery. And then again, just providing differentiate support for our teachers. Just like Luis had mentioned, his teachers have also our teachers have also had some of the same experiences as far as having some trauma with so much change as far as different leaderships, different expectations. I don't know what happened.
My computer died.
Oh. Okay. So we were fortunate to work with somebody from CDE, Dr. Amber McDonald, and she is an individual that comes in and provides some of that mental health and professional development when it comes to trauma-informed. So she's been instrumental in really supporting our teachers as well. I guess I'll go to my, her computer died.
Oh.
Let me go back, let me see.
I didn't expect Luis to go that long.
Huh? Oh. No. And I think the other piece is our teachers have really been open. Again, I think the big shift that we see from last year to this year is, last year we had a lot of pushback as far as doing a lot of this transformational change, as far as doing student learning objectives, making sure that teachers had content language objectives, making sure that teachers had agendas posted, making sure that teachers had essential questions posted, teachers were doing exit tickets. It was a lot of pushback. And this year what we see is a lot of our teachers are really now embracing that. They understand, they realize that they have to look at their data and they have to analyze it and adjust their instructional practices. And the fact that we're seeing teachers supporting now, new teachers coming in and really embracing that professional learning community model, I mean, that's a big shift for us because that was something that we had inconsistency with some of our content teams, and this year we're seeing everyone really working together, really supporting our new teachers. I mean, even this, I was telling Mr. Robert Kelly, I mean, we were here during the break, and we even had teachers show up during the break to plan some of the professional development for it. And now I feel bad because I didn't pay them, so I probably need to go back and make sure that we paid them. But I mean, that's one of the biggest differences now that you're seeing that we have some model teachers that are willing to now really provide that professional development for the rest of the staff, because again, they want to make sure that they're getting that support, but most importantly that we are doing what's best for our students. Here, I'm going to share with you some of the STAR data. You can see that we've seen some gains overall. From the blue is from the beginning of the year, and then our mid-year is in the red, and you have that broken down for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. What you're seeing right now is the scale score, and we've seen some growth as far as for 9th grade 43, for 10th grade 44, and for 11th grade also 44. Again, that is, we still need to continue to work on that, but again, we are seeing some gains in math. When it comes to reading, we've also seen some gains when it comes to from our scale score is 42 for 9th grade, 44 for 10th grade, and 44 for 11th grade. Well, it went down, actually, is it for, yeah. Oh, it went. And I think the piece here is this is something that we implemented again this year as far as, again, just some of the data that we're able to look and analyze and really make sure that we are using this data to really shift our instruction to make sure that, again, kids are getting strong instruction in all the classrooms. I think one of the pieces really helped Adams City High School is beyond textbooks, is really making sure teachers know what the standard is, and also they're elevating the type of activity that students are doing to that high level of rigor, so there's that alignment. I think that was the piece, is that they had the standard but not really implementing strategies or activities that were at that high level of rigor. And the difference we also see now is that teachers are doing more aggressive monitoring, making sure that kids, if they're not meeting those levels of proficiency, they're adjusting and providing that additional support, and also now providing like small group instruction. Before you would walk in and you would see a lot of just teacher directed, and now they're focusing on providing student-centered rigorous instruction to our students. Oops. This year we had the opportunity to implement the PSAT, so we have again data regarding how kids would perform with the PSAT that they'll actually take in April. As you can see, we didn't have a lot of kids in 11th grade. We only had 6% of our students that were meeting both benchmarks when it came to math and English. And then we only had 32% that met it for English at the 11th grade, and then 6% when it came to math. At the 11th grade, we only had 9% that hit proficiency at both English and math, and then 28% when it came to English, and then only 11% for 10th grade. 9th grade, you see that we have 13% of our students hit proficiency in both math and English, and then 25% for English, and then 20% for math. So one of the things that we are seeing is that kids are coming in stronger. If you can see that for ninth grade, I mean, to have that was something different that we did not have from the previous year. When it comes to attendance, you can see we have data from 2016, 2017, and now for 2018. And you can see that there's some areas where this is an area that we need to continue to, again, address. Our goal is to really make sure that we're able to provide the supports that our students need. I think one of the things that we've noticed is that we're trying to implement the same type of interventions with all students and realizing some of our students need additional support. So we're thankful that we have, again, a strong mental health team that is able to support our students. And again, I have to give a lot of credit to our deans and our attendance liaisons, because they are constantly meeting with parents and, again, working with parents to make sure that we're providing the supports and what are the things that we need to do differently to make sure that their kids are here. And it's interesting because once we get our parents in, they're willing to support many of our students and say they also need support. So then we end up having a lot of times having them get support also from our social worker, because parents say, I want my kid to be here, but I also need some support at home as well. Behavior trends, our goal is, again, not to suspend our students. We want them to be in class. And so we're working with our teachers, and that was part of having Dr. McDonald helping our teachers really, how can they create an environment where they're welcoming our students and keeping them in class, and what are the skills that we need to provide our teachers and our students. So again, we don't deregulate one another. The goal is to give them the skills so they can stay in class, and teachers also being more culturally responsive with our students. And our Dr. Martinez, our school psychologist, along with our counselors, have created peer mentors, and they are also supporting our students with making better choices and doing some of that conflict resolution. At a school
Can I ask you a question, just a quick question? What is your response to a parent that tells you that they need help with their student at home?
So many times we refer them to Dr. Martinez, our school psychologist, or our social worker to get that additional support, because sometimes parents I don't know what to do. So then we work with our mental health team to provide those additional supports, or our deans. So it's kind of, again, it's a team approach to supporting our families.
And you is there adequate staff at Adams 14 or within the district to deal with the number of families that are in that situation?
We can always use more. Right now we have Dr. Patty White Rodriguez, who is our social worker, and her experience is she comes from Chicago, and she says she's never been in a building that needed so much support when it comes to some of the trauma that our students and our families have faced, and she's had the experience in Chicago. Out-of-school suspensions, again, our goal is not to keep kids out. Our goal is to really provide other alternatives for our students so they do stay in, because as we know, we have kids that are coming in already several years behind, and the last thing we need is for them to miss more instruction and then get further behind and create anxiety, depression, all those things that come with that. So again, our student success teams really work with our students to provide other alternatives to really support them in making better decisions. So here again, it's just kind of a timeline of all the things that, again, we have done as a staff and provided our teachers. I want to say thank you again with the new calendar that was put out this year, because it really provided us the opportunity to really do some front-loading when it came to professional development. We really focused on providing teachers with strategies and teach like a champion, making sure they understood what are all the different elements when it came to the learning environment. We provided support with mindfulness with Dr. Amber McDonald, and also trauma-informed practices, and she continues to provide that as support. We're also thankful for her because she's been able to, again, help us provide lunch for our staff. So we were able to do that for Thanksgiving, and also right before the break, we were able to buy lunch for all our entire staff, and then we're also able to give them gift cards during our staff meetings, and again, to acknowledge some of the hard work that many of our staff is doing. So we're thankful for that. Again, we've also been able to provide additional support when it comes to our SPED teachers and making sure that our teachers get that additional professional development when it comes to our professional learning communities within our content teams to really support that horizontal alignment. We have instructional coaches who are amazing and really are helping our teachers when it comes to really lesson planning and, again, making sure that they're being culturally responsive. With our ELD program, last year we were only able to provide Spanish instruction to our English language learners. Now we were able to hire individuals that can teach not only Spanish and math, but also in science and social studies to really support our English language learners. We have weekly advisory lessons aligned to ICAP, so we have our counselors that are now able to provide that support, and since they no longer have to do a lot of the scheduling, we have a scheduler that does that. We're able to implement STAR testing to, again, progress monitor our students and how they're progressing when it comes to reading and math. Our counselors also were able to, when we started the year, they had credit audit checks, so kids knew exactly what credits they were missing and they needed to stay on track to graduate within 4 years. And I think the other piece, our PLCs were able to create what we call SLOs, with student learning outcomes, to really analyze and track throughout the year. And then we also had some AVID training for some of our teachers to, again, support our college readiness. In October, Again, we were shifting, making sure, supporting more of our teachers so they could be doing, create more centered lessons that are focused on our students. We had a big shift this year is that we had our PLCs create exemplars for our students. So again, our students knew what their targets were, and again, we're able to stay consistent with that, and also having rubrics to better support the learning that was going in the classroom that were, again, aligned to grade level standards. Our teachers are now doing a better job as far as really and very intentional and really doing that data analysis and really tracking the learning targets of students. They're doing a better job also as far as aligning their content language objectives to the learning products as far as what are the work that students are producing. We're also providing additional support to our teachers with practice labs, so that is something that Ms. Fox does for our teachers when we're going in and doing walkthroughs and we see that they need some additional support with classroom management or with exit tickets or really with their CLOs. On Wednesdays, they would go to see Ms. Fox. She would conduct a practice lab to support them with those skills. The other piece is the F list. We talk about as far as really making sure that we're progress monitoring and how we're providing additional support for our teachers so they are able to adjust their instructional practices to increase proficiency. We've been providing, again, with our Christy Cooley, who is our ELD instructional coach, continues to provide professional development when it comes to the WIDA for our English language learners and also for our teachers, because most of our teachers have English language learners, so helping them with the differentiation. Again, really doing that aggressive progress monitoring to make sure that students are meeting standards. This year we had all of our students really sign up for Khan Academy, so during advisory they can do practice PSAT, SAT, practice exams. We're also, again, really taking a strong focus and really helping our teachers with the reteach and the enrich, utilizing the BT curriculum. And again, we're really making sure that when we're doing observations, how do we need to better support our students and our teachers when it comes to analyzing our common formative assessments? Go ahead.
So just to add one piece, this is where last year on the SPF, we received 2 out of 8 points in growth for evidence-based reading and writing and 4 points out of 8 in math for growth. So this right here is where we're really anticipating making up some of our growth points to get 2 out of the 8 points and hoping to increase the 4 points to the 6 points in math if we target some of our subgroups like students with disabilities, our English language learners, which is why a lot of this professional development is very intentional to help across content areas really support some of our subgroups.
Mm-hmm. And then for the month of December and January, like I said, again, we had some of our teachers show up during Christmas break to really plan that writing and reading strategies PD. And again, what are the best practice in meeting the needs of our English language learners? We were, again, I want to say thank you. We were able to add an additional teacher to add a second credit recovery class for our 11th graders to make sure that we get them on track before they become 12th graders. Again, we're doing the push-in for Metro tutors as far as when it comes to math labs and credit recovery. Again, we've shifted this second semester to really now bringing everybody together on a weekly basis on Wednesdays and Thursdays to do the PD and also do our data team meetings. We're also having all of our teachers that have not completed the constructive meeting completed this second semester. Again, we're really being targeted when it comes to our observation feedback, being consistent in the feedback that we give our teachers. Once we got our data back from our PSAT, we were able to identify the kids who were proficient and also identified 25% of those students who we call the bubble kids that are partially proficient that we can continue to track to make sure they hit levels of proficiency, so that way we can increase also our growth data. We have and our status, because I think the big piece is that even though we had increase in status achievement, we need to make sure that we are also doing I guess increasing more students hitting those levels of proficiencies to increase the growth. Again, we're having PD on writing alignment by our English teachers. They're taking the lead, making sure there is consistency with all of our departments and what we expect for students to turn in when it comes to writing, instead of having different, not having that consistency. So we realize that we need to take a stronger lead in that. Again, teachers are also using practice PSAT, SAT prep questions during warm-up. Teachers will also be doing reflective visits to model classrooms. Again, our goal is to have all of our classrooms become model classrooms, not just have certain classrooms within our building. Also, we're doing AccuPlacer for our 12th graders. Our goal is to make sure that all of our students who graduate are hitting college readiness benchmarks. So one of the ways that they can hit that is by taking the AccuPlacer. Again, continuing to do STAR testing through 9th through our 11th graders. We have this year our 9th graders who are on read plans, and that's a targeted group that we make sure that we monitor. And then the other piece is we made some shifts this semester for some of our teachers. We wanted to make sure that all of our teams were strong. So working with the teachers, they were willing to shift some assignments to make sure that they were continuing to support their colleagues when it came to the analyzing data and instruction and lesson planning. When it comes to post-secondary work readiness, again, we launched a second credit recovery course. We want to make sure that we're able to have our students on track and also decrease the dropout rate. We're doing Khan Academy to increase our PSAT, SAT scores, aligned to the fall PSA test. Advisory, again, is a place that we're providing additional support for our students and really making sure that they're using that time to do their ICAP and also do the practice test. One of the ways that we're trying to increase our students going to college is really having that college readiness dean who is also tracking. He has a tracker that he has to complete monthly to make sure how many of our students are actually completing the FAFSA, applying to college, scholarships, or whatever supports that they need. And then again, right now, to increase our graduation, we're flooding all of our juniors with credit recovery, replacing sophomores in credit recovery to keep them on track, and then providing those tutoring services. And again, right now, when it comes to career and technical education certificates, we're working with these different partnerships to make sure that we're able to provide these opportunities for our students.
Any questions? Dr. Hyde?
No.
No questions? Mr. Thomas?
Yes. Can you go back to your last slide, please? I'm going to start from the top.
Okay.
How are you decreasing the dropout rate?
How am I decreasing the dropout rate? By making kids do credit recovery?
Okay.
Because we're trying to re-engage students.
But if you go down to, I'm kind of, when you say flood, juniors with credit recovery, flood, I'm trying to, the word flood, that means you're just throwing a bunch of juniors in credit recovery because you say flood. I'm trying to distinguish that word, flood. So do that mean juniors, they not getting the grades, or are we just putting them in credit recovery? Explain that to me. I'm kind of
Okay, so first priority, our credit recovery has only been for our seniors, because our goal is to make sure all of our seniors are on track to graduate. By us adding a second credit recovery course, we're focusing on all of our juniors who are off track. And so what we're trying to do is so they can make sure that they receive that credit, so that we're giving them 2 classes, 2 periods to really complete that class within that time frame.
Superintendent, I would like to know how many juniors is at the high school presently, and how many juniors supposed to be flood in this credit recovery. I want to know how many juniors is at the high school today, and how many are supposed to be trying to go into this credit recovery. And can we go back? If I'm kind of confused too.
Okay.
If I'm a freshman and I come in and I just leave Kearney, and I had Algebra 1. Shouldn't I be placed as a freshman in Algebra 1 as a high school? In high school, no?
Well, what we do is do a geometry for the students, depending on what their score. So what we do is we look, based on the data that we get from students, if students have shown that they've hit those levels of proficiency, we would place them in geometry.
And then I go to Algebra 2? So I skip Algebra 1 since I had it.
You could take another course, some kids.
Then I go to trig, and then pre-calculus.
Yes.
So how come our math is low for the kids that's coming from these two middle schools to the high school, from freshmen to sophomores 2 years in a row? I'm kind of confused. Actually, 3 years in a row. They should have been freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. You know, and I understand y'all finna say, well, we only been here 2 years. But I'm trying to figure out the scores, because they shouldn't be in credit recovery for math.
Well, I think if they need it, they do. I think one of the challenges that we had was that kids, even if they didn't do well, let's say in algebra or geometry, they were moved on to the next class. So it would be, if they were in geometry and they didn't do well in geometry, they would be moved up to algebra 2, instead of giving kids that opportunity to recover those credits. And what we're trying to do is, instead of before we put them in credit recovery, we're trying to give students the opportunity to do unit recovery. So when they took, every 6 weeks, they do a unit assessment. And if kids did not show proficiency on some of those standards, our goal is for teachers to provide them additional support to show that they did, or they did meet those standards. And it's just a way to, instead of the kids repeating the entire course through credit recovery.
Oh, somebody help me out, please. Is there a credit recovery at the middle schools? So they have to get them grades at the middle schools. So we using a credit recovery as an excuse for the high school. So we just, no, I'm saying, if we just throwing the kids in. Oh, a teacher can say, well, I'm having trouble, this kid ain't passing, so I'm just gonna put the kid in credit recovery.
I think that correct me if I'm wrong, I'm a freshman, I'm supposed to have algebra, I'm supposed to pass algebra. I didn't. In the past, they would move the student on to geometry. I never passed algebra, so now I'm having a difficult time with algebra. I didn't pass geometry, and even if they don't pass geometry, they keep moving on. What they're doing now is a student did not pass algebra, so you may move them up to geometry, but again, you're giving them credit recovery so he could learn the algebra.
Okay, so not freshmen. So what happens with our freshmen is they have, for example, if they're in algebra, they did not do well, did not pass the class first semester, they have an opportunity to do unit recovery, and they do that during their math lab class. So the math lab classes have been designed to really make sure that we're providing that additional support. So it's kind of making sure that they're also learning those standards, that they didn't show proficiency, and the teacher has an opportunity, once the kid shows that they hit those levels of proficiency, that they can do a change grade for them.
You get reteach.
That reteach through the lab, yes.
They're recovering a unit before they have to recover the whole semester. So maybe they got an F on one assessment. They're getting targeted instruction on all the standards aligned to that assessment, and then they have the opportunity to retake and redo that assessment. Credit recovery is if the whole entire class is bombed and no freshmen are going into, or sophomores are going into unit recovery. And it's really on an individual student basis. If a student does get an F in 9th grade Algebra 1, our counselors and our scheduler work and counsel one-on-one with the student and family. Why did this student receive the F? Are they able to repeat the course? Do they need kind of a break from algebraic thinking right now? Can they go into geometry, but knowing that you're going to be back in an Algebra 1 class junior year? So it's really on an individual basis, but I think what we're trying to do is saving. When we first got there, everybody seemed to be in credit recovery. And we had teachers recommending that, oh, this student just isn't turning anything in, I need them in credit recovery. And we said, hold on, we need just credit recovery for our seniors in the building to make sure that they graduate and walk on time to make up those credits. We're no longer putting in those freshmen and those sophomores that failed a class into credit recovery. We're giving them unit recovery, yeah. I hope that helps.
How many credits are needed in mathematics to graduate?
So four for the current freshmen and 3 for,
Right now.
right now. Yes, so we need to build in a
Would it be 4, or the 4, if you're a freshman, you gotta get 4?
Right.
You gotta take 4 years of
Yes,
math
that was just changed this year.
Yes.
to,
From 3.
It's in our agenda.
The class of 2021, the sophomores now.
And the thing is now, our sophomores need to make sure when they graduate, they're hitting those college readiness benchmarks, or else they can't graduate.
So we offering Algebra 1, Geometry, Trig, Calculus.
And
Also, we offered college algebra.
yeah, and the math department has collaborated and
stats.
has a proposal in for offering like a financial math course. Like we have a forensics alternative science course for some kids that are struggling in math. The chemistry is so painful for them to go through. So we offer a forensics course, which still has the lab and counts for science credit. So our math department has proposed a financial mathematics course where students can get that 4th credit. So this is all in conversation, and we're trying to work with our teachers around that mathematical pipeline for our kids.
So I want to kind of come in on the tail end of what the other members have been talking about. If you have someone in middle school taking Algebra 1, and they don't pass it, what do they do in high school? Do they start high school Algebra 1?
Algebra 1.
At the beginning?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I guess maybe that explains, in my mind, that explains why your freshmen generally are not in credit recovery, because that situation doesn't arise,
Well,
right? Because if either they pass it in the middle school and they move on to geometry, or they don't pass it and they take it in high school.
And they also have time to, again, recover that credit. Again, our goal is to really focus credit recovery. I mean, if you think about credit recovery in the program, it's an online program, and it's self-paced, and many of our times our students need additional support. It's hard. So our kids are realizing that they'd rather be in the classroom than be in credit recovery. But again, some of our kids really want to make sure that they graduate on time, so that's another opportunity to kind of accelerate and make sure that they're recovering those credits so they can graduate on time.
Yeah, I think there was an idea floated at some point, and this was a number of months ago, that if a high school student failed the fall term in math, that they could retake it in the spring. Now, is that just an idea that was floated and never implemented, or is that in practice?
We did that last year. So we were able to offer, like, say, for example, Algebra 1A, second semester as well.
Is that being done this year?
Do that this year.
And what was your reasoning not to continue that?
We didn't have enough teachers to be able to to provide that support. We realized that we can, again, they can recover that second semester. That would be, instead of them having an elective, they could take that next year.
And in addition, when we really looked at the data, a lot of these students were not just receiving 1 F in math, they had a couple Fs. And the feedback we received from teachers is having them all in one class. It was very challenging. And we didn't see, the data didn't warrant huge passing rates from them, so.
But what I do want to say, what we are doing is some of the kids that teachers did say that they could do, like semester recovery, they're getting that additional support during their math lab. So again, those teachers are working together, and so the lab teacher is providing that additional support, and if the child is able to show, again, a level of proficiency on those standards that they weren't able to show first semester, then they can submit for a change grade. So again, we are having that collaboration, something that we did not have last year.
So when are your recovery classes offered?
In the morning, all day, so basically 7:30 to 2:50.
That's one of their regular classes.
Yes,
So,
yes.
When they recover, they're actually falling behind the thing from reaching the, 23
Yes.
credits? This year at CASB, Ms. Quintana and I, we went to a workshop. I forgot the school district, but they said that they were having problems with this situation. And you talked about units, if they just failed a unit, they can just take that unit. If they pass that unit, then they can pass the course. But as we talked to this school, told us that one of the best things they ever did was when students were failing, they made them come in after school for 2 hours. And there, they were able to they went from, 72 athletes being ineligible because of the 2F policy. I don't know what the policy is here at the high school, but most schools have 2F. You have 2Fs, you can't compete. So they made 2 hours, and it went from 72 students down to 4.
Yeah, it was real low.
4 students. Can we look at some other new things? Because to me, if I'm a freshman and I fail algebra, because I failed it in the middle school and I failed it here, and I got to retake it, I'm already behind as a freshman. So we got to find faster ways to recover them, and if it means that we have to find teachers that'll come in for 2 hours after school to teach these kids, and those kids aren't allowed to participate in nothing until those grades get up, why don't we do it? Because if you keep falling back, you're never going to recover, no matter how hard. I remember when I was teaching, there were some kids that were trying to take while they failed English 1A. But they pushed them on to 1B like you were doing. And before you knew it, when they're seniors, in order to graduate, they're taking 2 or 3 English classes.
That's what we saw.
To graduate. Well, it's not going to happen. So we got to stop, prevent it before it gets.
We got to be proactive.
The freshmen, if it means us as a board saying we got to allocate money to hire teachers for 2 hours after school, we better do it.
So
if we want to keep these scores up.
So I think one of the areas that we saw there was a big need for us is really helping our teachers to really be able to differentiate for the different learning needs for our students, because I think that was something that we saw was they needed more professional development. And how do you, again, differentiate for kids who are 2 or 3 years behind? And so, again, our coaches, right now we have Dr. Shade, who's really strong in math and really supporting our math teachers, especially our Algebra 1 teachers, and how they can better support our students. Because I think that was one of the areas that teachers would say, okay, I want to work at Adams City High School, and they thought, okay, I'm teaching 9th graders, and they realized, oh my goodness, many of my kids are at the 6th grade level. I don't know how to differentiate. I need support, and yet you're expecting me to accelerate. So again, that's something that we've been trying to focus on, and how can we better support our teachers to better support our students so they are being successful, and then how are teachers then using that data to again shift their instructional practices so more of our kids are successful. So that's one of the things that we noticed is also providing our students with that additional support, but also helping our teachers with their lesson planning when it comes to being able to meet the needs of culturally and linguistically diverse learners.
What is the class sizes in our math and English?
Right now we have about 30 students. Some might be 32, 34. This depends on the period.
Have we looked at maybe, and as I looked at the KIPP charter school, we have to go visit charter schools. And as I visit them, I noticed that the reason KIPP gets its score so high is because we went to a classroom where it was 23 students. 6 adults were in there. That makes it an average of 4 students to each adult. Went to other classrooms, they had 2 teachers there working with it. And if that's what it is, if you think you need that, then let us know. Because I will push for getting more, making classrooms small, if this is where we continue to fail and fail. If we continue to fail, I'm an Adams City product. I don't ever want to see Adams City leave. But we got 4 years to do it, and if we don't do it, then we can become part of District 1, we can become part of Northfield over here, we can become part of 27J, and I don't want that. You know, for a lot of alumni that I talk to say the same thing. We bleed green and orange. And so what it means is we got to get you to step outside the box and say, this is what we need. If we can get this, we can pick up our scores. And I will push to get you whatever, and I will come up with the plan. I already have a plan. I talked to some people, and they said it sounds good, for we could put our more teachers in the classroom or more para. Last year, we voted in how many harvests, how many paras did we get? Because this was your
20.
baby. 20. We could find more people. If it means we need more adults in there to help, then we got to do it. Because there's no sense doing recovery. And because once these students get behind, they question themselves, why am I going to school? I'm not going to graduate anyway. So we have to go outside the box now. And we got to come up, you know, well, we looked at this, we looked at this is what they're doing. Garbage. We know our kids. Our kids aren't the same as kids over there. We have to come up with new ideas. And I believe we've hired the best of the best of the best. So that means you have to be creative and go outside the box for us. And if it means us getting more more teachers, then tell us. And we'll find some way to do it.
Do you think those adults do you know who those extra adults were? Were they student teachers? Do they partner and do their practicum there?
I don't know if they were student teachers, they were just
Some
adults. They said two teachers.
Some were.
And that's another thing I said, well, if we can do that, let's go to Metro or Regis.
And that's what we're...
Find out who's going to be a teacher and bring them into the real world. Because as I talk to some of these young teachers, well, they didn't prepare me to teach like this at this type of school.
So I think that's...
Now they get the thing, and I don't know if we could pay them, we don't have to pay them full, but we could pay. If you can get a person 2 or 3 days a week from Regis or 2 or 3 days from Metro, here, we could give them a little bit of money to help pay for their tuition. But that's going outside the box. You know, and I'll be honest, if it was up to me, and I'm going to make teachers mad now, but I don't care, is last year we spent $650,000 on substitutes. That's a no-no. If you're here to teach, you got a contract. And I'm to explain this to somebody, and somebody tells, well, do you know there was 4 teachers that decided they were going to go on a fishing trip? Knowing that we're going through this crisis. You know, that's a no-no. That's a no-no for people do that. And I'm talking every May and December, I'm talking a group of the teachers from Adams City High School gather, and we have breakfast and we talk about it. They're asking this, and I tell them what's going on. You got to be kidding me. And I go, why is that? He goes, when I retired in we had 20 teachers retire in 1992. Every one of them got money back. And one of the teachers said, you know, that money that I got back turning in my sick days paid for me to go to Europe. So why aren't we doing this? I mean, take this money, and if teachers continue to be absent, I think the contract, and Deborah can correct me if I'm wrong or not, but I think a principal can ask a teacher that decides to take a day off, okay, give me a doctor's excuse. You know, and if they can't provide one, then charge them for that day. Why should we pay for teachers so they can have a good old time, go up skiing and golfing and
fishing,
these things? But that's a hard look. But I'm just saying, if we need help in the classroom, let's get it. Let's find a way.
So I want to first of all say thank you to all of you guys, because that's something that we're working with our Metro students through the Center of Urban Education, because again, these are students that are coming in that are in the process of becoming teachers. So again, we didn't have great success after school, so what we did is we shifted the semester, and now they're in the lab classrooms and providing that support. We do have, last semester, we were hoping to get 7. We weren't able to get that many students. Now we have, I think it's 6 that are in, and Monday through Friday, and they're there all day to support not only credit recovery, but also our math lab classes. So I just want to say thank you for that support as well.
Do you allow the ninth graders in there? Because I'm sure by the second semester, you know if these kids are going to fall behind. So do you allow them into that credit recovery? Because they're going to need help.
Some students, again, it's the team, so we have the student success team look at students, because again, if they're not doing well in a lot of their classrooms, they are having issues with behavior, that's a way to kind of provide, kind of remove them from the classroom and then give them a different type of support. So we've done that in the past, where we've moved some of our freshmen where they're failing all of their courses, and then it's like, okay, what can we recover at this time? So at least you get some credits.
That sounds
But
good.
that's only usually second semester, not first.
That would bring down the numbers by the time they're a senior.
But again, our focus right now with credit recovery is really making sure that we're providing that additional support to our seniors and then our juniors.
I know about the credit recovery because when I was working here, my department is the one that used to get them. They'd come to us during the daytime, do their credit recovery until they passed the test.
And I think one of the challenges that we do have at the high school is, especially right after October count, we had a lot of students, again, that are now, they have moved into Commerce City. They're, a year, 2 years behind, and they have to be enrolled in Adams City High School.
Right.
So that's another piece.
I had a couple of questions. You
Yes.
guys have questions?
Ms. Maldonado, I just had a really quick question. So I was going to wait until later because this is on the agenda, but since the math credits were already brought up, under the first reading of the graduation requirements that we're considering later, I think I heard you mention that currently 3 math credits are required for graduation for those students
3
that
years,
will
yeah.
graduate prior to 2021. And then from there, 4 are going to be required if they
4
graduate?
years.
Okay, so I don't know if this is a typo on the agenda or not, but under the column for students expected to graduate in 2021 and beyond, it still says 3 math credits in the agenda.
3, 4. We've always been 4.
And so, I mean, that raises a question for me. If it's less than what's required by the Colorado Commission of Higher Education to attend a 4-year university, we're not requiring what the higher education requires of students.
So we do 4. That's one of the things, because again, we want to make sure that our students are better prepared, so they're not needing remediation, because we know if kids go to college and are remediation free, they're likely to graduate from college in 4 years. So right now, we're like our students, well, if they have, again, space in their schedule, we're really wanting them to do 4 years of math right now as well to prepare them for college.
My question have to do with attendance. Y'all attendance last year was 86%. This year is less than 87. What are y'all doing to improve that?
I'll speak to our attendance. Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Every student. Sure can. Every student, whether they're here at our school or not, is human data. It's a human story. What we've looked to do this year is make sure that rather than first looking to the numbers through withdrawal, because if you look at a kid and he's at 10 absences currently, you can withdraw them, and while that will boost your score as far as like your attendance rate, you haven't worked with the kid like you need to. One of the things that I've had the pleasure of being as a teacher at Adams City High School for the first part of last year, I had a student by the name of Christian who I did not see for the first half of the first semester. I saw him at a game. Christian said, "Mr. Kelly, I know I haven't been here. Can I come back to the school?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll welcome you right back into my class." That right there was a turning point for Christian, because not only did he come back to my class and I was able to support him, he came back to his other classes, and Christian wound up graduating. So while we do have the point of making our numbers go up, how we're going to make our numbers go up is what Adams City is really looking at, and that goes through culturally responsive education. It's through the trauma-informed care. It's through smart systems that we are now starting to move towards tweaking. To be honest with you, we started off with a system that was paper-driven, and a paper-driven system has a lot of points to where you have to have lots of people working through it. We weren't getting the results we needed. This semester, we're going to not so much a paper-driven system, but a automated system to where we won't have as many people out in the hallways working with kids to get there, but we're able to get kids into class. We're also going to be working through our SSTs to where when students are at the 96 to 100%, they're going to be systemically recognized. Our teachers as well, as we've been doing through the whole semester, recognizing our teachers. So they've been receiving $100 every month. And then for our kids who are at the 95 all the way to 90, those are at-risk kids. Those kids will be brought in with their parents into our SST program to where their parents know through our programming, this is what you need to do to graduate. Your attendance is a vital part of that. And for the kids, through the contract, thank you. Oh, that's right. Also, we did do the taco truck this year as well. We're going to be doing that again. But then also, one of the things that we have that we'll be looking at doing for this upcoming semester is an attendance buyback or an attendance recovery program, to where if a student is at 90% or below, what we're going to do is say your credit is halted until we have an opportunity to bring you in, meet with your parent, work through a remediation process, and get you back going. So there are students that I've spoken to, and they say, if that was the case, I would be in class. Well, we want to try all different ways in which to get kids there, but we want to start off first by recognizing the students who are doing good, because the way that you move a percentage of kids to do the right thing is by showing the ones who are already doing the right thing that we want to congratulate you for it. Because they say if you have 85% of kids that are doing the right thing, you have like 10% of kids, which makes 95%, that are going to see whether you're going to reward the 5 or you're going to reward the 85. If we go to reward the 85, they're going to do what the 85, that 10% is going to do what that 85% does. And so what we want to make sure is that our kids know that we care about them, that we systemically care about them, and we're going to give them the things that they need. That comes through us working smarter. Working smarter is having a system that says your credits are halted until you buy this back, through you coming and working, say, after school within our tutoring programs, to where you have that remediation that you'll be able to have. Is that going to be hard? Yeah, it's going to be a hard lift, but every kid out there, like the kid Christian, needs that opportunity. Because one of the things that I know from being an educator, if you have kids that come to the school but don't go to the class, generally that is a situation where it's instructional. But if you have a kid who is out of school and they're not coming at all, that's social emotional. Well, we have kids at Adams City High School who come to school, come to the building, they're cutting. We have kids that are just emotionally distraught. So they're coming, they want to be here, we want to help them, but sometimes they're not in class and they're in the hallway and they're coming down to our office. So that's why we have the trauma-informed care. That's why we have a new school psychologist. That's why we now have instituted the support through the staff psychologist. We have different things that we're trying, not just a one-size-fits-all approach that, to be honest with you, that I started off with at the beginning of the semester. I did believe that if we did as I did in a Cherry Creek school, hey, all we have to do is make sure we give these kids their detentions, we would be successful. Well, That's not the only way to hit a child. You have to make sure you give them all the love, care, and support as you would the ones in your own house. I don't parent one way, and all of my kids go to school, and they're there every day. And so I have to work in lieu of, like it says, in lieu of the parent, in loco parentis, with the kids I have at Adams City High School, and that comes through finding different ways in which to instruct our kids through attendance management.
Thank you for your answer, but there's 1,700 kids at the high school.
Absolutely.
14% of those kids a month is not going to school. That's roughly what, about 2,300, about 230, about 230 students that's late, that's not coming to school. That's 230 students that's not coming to school a month. So it's our job up here on this dais, is we asking you and your staff, what are y'all doing to get those kids to school? How come they not going? Are we sending letters to the parents? How are we getting them there? What is the job? That's 200-something students ain't going to school. So I mean, I can sympathize and listen, but I got 230 students ain't going to school. I want to know why they not making it to the classroom. I want to know why they not making it out that door. And sitting here listening, that ain't helping me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, how many attendant liaisons do y'all have at the high school?
We have 4.
Y'all have 4, so that should be one for each. That should be one for each grade level.
Mm-hmm.
Do they make calls? Do they go knock on doors? What do they do?
Yes, yes, they do.
And we still, and y'all at an 86% for 4 months, and the lowest in the district is the high school, and you got 4 liaisons at the high school?
Making phone calls.
And that's
Look,
it. No letters, no. Some ain't working. Superintendent, they got 4 parent liaisons at the high school for all school. We're missing 200-some students per month, and they had an 86% attendance. Something ain't right in the elementary school. All the other schools is higher, even though it's down lower. Attendance, students, something is not right.
So,
superintendent.
Yes, and I agree with you, and I just want to let all board members know that our next meeting for all the principals and all the assistant principals, the main topic and our area of concentration is going to be attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a question for you, Superintendent. Can you tell the Board of Education, us up here, us 5, what have you done to help Adams City High School once you've seen that they did not make the improvement to get out of turnaround since August? What have you implemented to improve them? I mean, the board, we can say, cut a check and do this, but, you know, if I went back and looked at the revised letter from June 16 that you sent to the CDE, it states that the post-secondary director of the high school, of the CTE, was supposed to work with the superintendent and the principal. Who is that person? Who is that person that was in that letter that's supposed to work with the CTE at the high school and the superintendent? Can anybody tell me that? Anybody in this room? The director of the CTE supposed to work with the principal and the superintendent. Who is that person? And it didn't say an AP. It was in the revised statute letter that went to the CDE. Excuse me? It said Dr. Abrego will work with the CTE director. Who is the CTE director? The CTE. Who is? No. The letter went to the CDE, but it was the CTE at the high school. Who is the director of the CTE?
Chris serves as like the CTE director.
No. Chris ain't in that letter. The revised letter. Everybody know who I'm talking about. The revised letter that went to the CDE. It went to him, the revised letter went 6/6/17.
6. Oh, I don't understand the question. I don't know what the
Question is, are we talking about the high school? And she,
The question you asked, Mr. Thomas, is what have I done?
Yes,
I meet
and
with
that's
the
the question.
I meet with the principal every Wednesday for the past year, and what we identify are gaps. Once we identify a gap, we did identify attendance as being needed as improvement, and we talked through it. And I believe you put in a lot of systems, because I look at your wall, and on your wall you have identified all the students, 9th grade, 10th grade. You're putting in some measures to improve attendance. I also asked you, how can we support you? How can I go back and give you additional support from our board members? I would really like to say to the board is maybe it's time that we create some policies from the board to help our high school and others, because kids are going to miss at will if they know they can. Maybe we need to do something as far as policies, from our point.
we just changed the policy.
Not that kind of policy, different types of policies.
Oh, good, good.
So I know one of the challenges that we currently have at Adams City High School, again, all the students, we're the only high school, comprehensive high school, so when students come in, regardless of whatever, they might be overage, under credit, may be released from a detention center, be 3 years behind, we all accept them at Adams City High School. And one of the things I know that we're working on is how can we provide better support for those students, because many times a comprehensive high school is not the best placement for our students. We've talked about really doing more of a collaboration with Lester Arnold, because some of our students do need more of a smaller school setting to be able to make sure that their needs are being addressed. And I have to say, some of our kids, it's the attendance. We have a lot of the kids, like after October count, a lot of schools, charter schools have released their students, and we have to take them, because we're the only high school that exists within Commerce City. I would say additional support with some of the pathways to help some of our students who need those additional intense supports.
But Lester Arnold is full, right? So we can't just push them in Lester Arnold because it's full.
Well, that's where I would say that if we can create some other alternative pathways for our students.
Yeah, I mean, just as one example, well, 24 examples. In the month of November, we had more than 24 new enrolled students, but 24 of them in 1 month came in from detention, other districts out of state, not being in school for a year, charter schools, 24 with individual education plans. And that's challenging. I mean, a lot of them had attendance issues, behavior issues, low on credits. It kind of, we're very welcoming to all of our students, but it kind of taxed our resources a little bit because we had planned programming based on our projections. And to receive just such a consolidated number of students with special needs, I mean, that impacts our programming. We need to build out other sections of different classes for them because you can't go over a certain number. So that's a piece that is challenging. I agree, being the solo high school in the district.
Really, in every other district that I've been in, after October count, the same thing happens, where you have kids that come from expulsion schools, kids who come from out-of-state, kids come from charter schools where they were not successful. Now, with that, there are alternative forms of programming that those districts have that say, let's integrate those kids into the regular high school, but we're not going to put them into the regular high school first, which allows a school like Adams City to continue to use the resources they have for the kids that are already there. Now, once they've gone through, say, like Airline Heights School, where they went through flight school, then they would come into like a regular school like Adams City High School, and then they're able to be successful. But it wasn't that they were being turned away, it's just they were being given that alternative programming which we don't have within our district that we would need. If we're speaking to what we would need, it'd be nice to have that alternative programming for when you have kids that are coming into your district that need more than what your school has. They're able to have that, so say, flight school type of startup before they come to the regular comprehensive high school.
So of those students that come in, you said 24 in November, were all 24 living in District 14?
Yes,
Or are we just taking anybody that applies? Because we can also say,
Address for Commerce City, yes.
and they were verified.
Yes.
Because, you know, I know all the little tricks where if I needed a baseball player, I could say, put this address down, and you could attend Skyview.
Yeah.
So, but they have been verified.
Because like I said, it really taxed our system, you know, so yes, we verified all of them. But right now, currently is, there is another high school and students walk in and register there and they end up going to school there, and then when we recommend transferring a student over there, they're full because they're I guess a standalone high school, not really a pathway school. So whenever we need this space, like I have a second-year senior right now with special needs that needs acceleration. She needs a quarter system to make up her credits because she's a second-year senior. She's not going to graduate this year, and there's no space. It would be nice if we could have space because there weren't just freestanding families walking in just to independently register their students. When we went over there for a meeting, we saw so many of our past students. We were like, I didn't know you were coming here. Oh yeah, my mom took me over the summer to enroll me here. So I don't know. I think it would be nice if students could be more intentionally placed.
Pathways.
I don't want to too much deviate from where we were with the question that you asked, Mr. Harvest, about what are we going to do. So to that end, what we are looking at for this semester is improving upon what we've already started, and that would be the systemic recognition of our great attendance daily. So for those students who are having great attendance, let the other students, or those teachers who have great attendance, let the other teachers know every day that this is what we're doing. We have the grade level SST attendance accountability tracking. We'll get the targeted support from our attendance liaisons. One of the things that we want to bring in this year is a HERO system. HERO system is an automated system that will allow us to do better with not just the tracking, but the quick tracking of our attendance problems. Like if the kids are in the hallway, go right to class because we've already tracked them. Then also going to the required, that's right. Also, we do give the kids our tickets by way of the PBIS support to where they're able to go to the games for free, where they're able to, actually, that's right, we're the Nuggets. I was thinking of our other games, but that's right. They get to go to the Nuggets. Those are things that we're going to be doing even more so. And also concerts, we've been giving them candy. We've been doing those things that we've seen through data that you try to do with your kids to make sure that they're going to be successful. And then also, we're looking more into our dropout prevention recovery, and then, as I spoke to before, the required seat time intervention.
Just, not a question, just a quick comment. The tickets to games, the candy, that's all good and well. It pales in comparison to a trusted adult who invests in them. So I hope that's always our focus.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Brager, do you have any more?
No, we do have, that was our last school. Now we have the DAC suggested spending priorities. Members of the DAC?
Have to use the microphone. Come next to me so you can hear me.
you were the one that needed to hear me. Good evening. I'm Deborah Figueroa, Kearney Middle School teacher and equity chair and DAC member.
I'm Connie Bonnell. I'm the chair of the DAC.
So we're part of the committee that worked on looking at the budget recommendations. So what we're going to present is just what we were able to do in a very short amount of time. And so if you notice, what we really are after is at the bottom. We really want to be able to engage in that meaningful and thoughtful consultation. So please understand that what we're presenting is a real, genuine effort to really collaborate and be transparent and honest with whatever we're recommending. Any questions? Can I go? Yes. So I'll quickly talk about the budget subcommittee process. We met with the chief financial officer. He presented the budgeting process and the building procedure, how they collect all the data that they need. And so he basically just shared that with us. I'm not going to read to you. You know how to read. But it was basically, the gist is, let's talk about what do you need at your building to be successful. Yes, we know needs are important, but also wants. So I thought that was really important because it's not just about a need, but if we're talking about change, what is necessary? And I think you guys have already highlighted about think outside the box, be creative. So that's what I think we mean by what do you need as well as what do you want. And then the way he presented is in focus areas. So what do you need in staff? What do you need for curriculum? What do you need for technology, etc.? Does that make sense? At the bottom, you'll notice, just the last little piece. At the bottom, you notice I actually added the connection. If you look at it, it all connects to making sure that we inspire, educate, and empower, not just the students, but your teachers and your staff, everybody involved. That was all I wanted to say about that. Okay, so given all of that, I do want to say this. We are in a strange situation with these recommendations. So what you'll notice is we went ahead and made recommendations knowing that there's some unknowns. Okay? So facilities. Can you just go back to the first one? Just one quick minute. These are the categories. Okay? Now what we did is we ranked them and we put them in the priority ranking, if that makes sense. So now if you go back, number 1. Okay? So I didn't give you numbers, so I just kind of wanted to explain it. So there are 5 points, but we are only presenting 4. So high areas of priorities we thought was the number 1 was our physical facilities, like a building, the safety and the security, important. If you notice, I'm talking about highlighting certain things, and I've put them in the ranking of the way the committee like sequenced priorities in order. So like if you have to pick and choose, the committee is recommending that safety and security is number 1 out of everything if you have to pick and choose. Okay? I do want to show you this thingy here. So this is just, and I don't have them all. I just have the one I have. This is me. I'm a teacher. When I talk about exterior doors and the update in one system, I have 3 keys on my ring and I have a fob. But I still have another set of keys in my classroom. So I'm in one building, not in many buildings, but I need all of these to work one building, one system. So that's what I mean by exterior doors, all systems. No more keys and fobs, if that makes sense. It's too much. It's not the same system. Okay? Anything else? I mean, to highlight for here.
Cameras and beautification.
Yeah. So again, the priorities, it's about, making sure we have not just cameras, but that they function. Because a complaint that we've heard as DAC members are safety and concern. When we go to look at cameras, some of the cameras work, some of the cameras don't. So that was kind of weird. So we didn't understand that. But again, just this concept of just priorities, picking and choosing.
Under beautification, I know that sounds like kind of a bottom of the bucket type of a thing, but a student, a parent, a teacher, a principal feels much more energized if they're walking into a building that is attractive, has shrubbery around it, doesn't have filthy windows, has grass, and is clean on the outside. That gives kids and parents much more energy to say, I'm proud to be at this school. So that's one of the things that we felt, and a couple of the teachers also felt was very important.
So any questions about that? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, I think, but if you have questions, we can share. Okay, the second, again, back to priorities, ranking them. So then the second area of priorities we thought the district needed was technology. And then if you notice, I did do elementary sites. That came up again and again. Things are not consistent at the elementary sites with licensed technology teachers, and that's why I said you might have an elementary school that has one, 2 elementary schools, but maybe everybody gets to pick and choose how they spend that particular, allocation. So what we're recommending is, given the age we're in, every school site should have a dedicated licensed technology teacher that focuses on those mechanical pieces. I'm not saying it right. The technical pieces of navigating the computer, because I have kids that are still doing this, and I teach 8th grade now, and I still have kids doing this, and where's the tab miss, and how do I paragraph, and so it's kind of insane that I'm at an 8th grade level still trying to just do basic technology things, forget about plugging in the computer or doing anything else. So we thought that was really important. And then the second piece to that was the dedicated staff to create partnerships. So we keep hearing about all these resources, but it would be nice to have someone dedicated to help bring in those resources.
This was one of my comments. I know for a fact from other districts that they partner with corporations to bring in technology. Poudre Valley High School provides for every freshman coming in a laptop computer that is not purchased by the school district, it is purchased by a corporation. And they also keep the upkeep on those. The kids turn them in every fall, every spring. They're reprogrammed and done whatever needs to be done to them, given back to them at the end of the school, at the beginning of the school year. And if they stay in school and they graduate, that computer is theirs. So I don't know why we aren't doing that in this community. We have a lot of large corporations in this community. We have trucking companies, we have UPS, FedEx, a lot of other businesses, that it's advantageous to them. Because if we are graduating students out of high school that are technically savvy and knowledgeable, and they just go out and get a job, that's beneficial to these companies also. So that's why a lot of these companies are willing to do this.
And with that, we, again, talking about opportunities, right? So when you look at what Connie is presenting is this concept of partnering up, but having that dedicated person to find those partnerships and facilitate those partnerships, because it's a need. We're a community. We talked about the C. We're not sure, well, the C and the D. We're talking about the inconsistency with these gadgets and, these projectors and these document cameras. And, I can speak that we, in my building, we have all sorts of sizes and shapes. What we're talking about is we don't know what curriculum an EMO might recommend and if it's going to be attached to a particular technology. So what we're saying is you want to wait on any larger purchases until that EMO is selected and if they require a particular, technology. So we're saying set aside those funds for the interactive projectors. Don't buy them, but set them aside. We want them, we need them. And then even for bigger purchase, we should save some of that technology money until the EMO is picked. That was it there. Any questions? Okay. Staffing was our third area. Elementary sites, it's there again on purpose. I know it says the same thing, but it's there on purpose because it is a need. And 2 areas, so we figured if you can't count it in the area of technology, maybe we can count it in the area of staffing. They count, but it's still the same need. It's not uniform at each site. So we're talking about, we're a small district. Yes, we have individual school sites and everybody has individual needs, but we're really still too small to have this inconsistency with just basic like structures and basic expectations. Like every building should have a technology teacher. That's an idea. We don't know what the enrollment is going to be, so we kind of are not making any major recommendations. We're saying we don't know what they are. Set aside the funding until the EMOs are here. Let's wait to see what our enrollment looks like and what the recommendations are. We definitely do want to see some professional development, and if you notice, we added both the teachers and the parent universities. And knowing, I had technical difficulties with the parent university as a PD, but if our development for our grown-ups is development for our kids, we're hoping that it kind of connects, like professional development for our parents in some way.
Because a lot of parents don't even understand how teaching is being done today, just like math. They teach new math. I'm a perfect example. I helped my great-grandson do his math. I don't even understand what he's doing. I don't understand why he's doing it the way he's doing it. 2 + 2 is 4, period, but there's different ways of teaching it. So parents have a better understanding and know what their children are learning so that if they do bring home homework, we can help them.
Then we are at the last one, and it's very small. It's the curriculum one. And we're saying, again, it is another unknown factor. We don't know what kind of programming recommendations might be set. So again, we're suggesting that you set aside that money. We didn't get into the last one. If we go back to the beginning, the areas, I can just pull it up. So we covered staffing needs, curriculum, technology, facilities. The revenue planning was not something we were able to get into, which would have been the fifth area. Last month was a bit full of meetings, and so this was a really fast meeting and a fast turnaround for these recommendations.
Well, and that also is EMO.
Right, so again, waiting on what is going to be our new organization group, so.
As the DAC, once the EMO is on, we may be able to revisit this and come up with some new recommendations, but we just felt with an EMO coming in, we don't know what that's going to look like. We know we have to go forward, but we hated to make recommendations for something that may not even happen because of the EMO, so that was our thought process.
So if you have any questions, we can try to answer them. I think it's pretty straightforward. So, thank you for that.
That's it, Dr. Brago?
Yes, that is.
Okay. Moving on to consent items, personnel, 1.1, superintendent's recommendation, personnel actions. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to remove the termination recommendations for administration from the consent agenda. I understand one of the people identified is here, and I think it's important that she have an opportunity to dialogue with this Board of Education, either in public setting, in executive session, whatever she chooses, and should she choose to talk with the board.
Okay. Second?
I second, Madam Chair.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair, can I clarify Senator Moreno's motion? Is it to just to remove item number 21 from the, or both?
Thank you, Mr. Farrer. I can include both in one motion to approve the consent items and, excluding the administration recommendations, if that's cleaner.
Well, I'm sorry, to clarify, are you pulling both administrative recommendations or just one of the two?
Okay. I would like to pull item number 21.
Yes.
Okay. So you have the consent agenda before you, absent item 21. Maybe just for the clarity, is there a motion then to approve the superintendent's recommendations?
Yes.
Excluding number 21?
Madam Chair, I move to approve, I move to approve item 1.1, superintendent's recommendation for personnel actions, excluding item 21.
May I have a second?
So moved.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Monica?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Should we do
Yes,
now or move to go in?
So, Madam Chair, you now move into number 3, business, your next item on the agenda. You
Okay.
have an item, in case you had a pull, so now you have item number 21 that's been pulled, and if the board wants to convene a personnel executive session, it's been noticed, and you could do so at this time.
Okay, so may I have a motion to move into exec session?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
For personnel issue?
I move to convene an executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6, 402, parenthesis 4, parenthesis F, personnel, individual personnel matters.
May I have a second?
Madam Chair, I second the motion. We go to executive session, CRS 24-4 and 402.
Any discussion?
Madam Chairman, is it correct that the person in question has the option of, so we need to offer that to them
Yes,
before we go
we
into
will.
executive session?
Roll call?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
So now I would like to offer you to go in with us, or do you want it in public?
So can we do it another day, or does it have to happen right now?
Yeah, now.
Yes,
But
okay.
either in public for the others to hear, or we could go behind closed
Okay,
doors.
I'd rather go
Okay.
behind. Yeah.
So meet us in that room. Okay, we're back in session, and we're going to go back on to personnel, superintendent's recommendation to approve.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve superintendent recommendation for number 21.
May I have a second?
So moved.
Discussion?
Madam Chair, we're dealing with an issue here that has a lot of good points on both sides of it. And we've heard from the employee as well as from senior staff. And I think there is a lot of room for interpretation, and I think there's a lot of ambiguity, and what we've heard, and yet the district is in not a unique position, but has a very special role to play in terms of specifically dealing with its senior staff members. And in any organization, people who are hired at will understand what that means. And ultimately, the senior management needs to be able to work together and feel comfortable conducting business together and communicating and so forth, and cooperating and seeing things the same way, and that those conditions may exist even when you have employees, all of whom are qualified and capable of serving in their roles with competence. And I think that's what makes this decision extremely difficult. But ultimately, we do have the situation in which, and it's understandable that in any corporation or any institution, among senior staff, often ineffable characteristics can be the downfall of coordinated management. And I feel very much that that's the situation we're in. Thank you.
Monica, may I have roll call?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
No.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
No.
Mr. Thomas?
No.
Moving on to bid number 3, 2.1, Superintendent's Recommendation, Policy IKF Revised. Discussion, first reading, graduation requirements. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve Superintendent's Recommendation, item 2.1.
Second. May I have a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Discussion?
Madam Chair, I'm wondering, based on what we heard earlier, perhaps we should modify the credits for mathematics to 4, considering that that's what's practiced already, apparently, at the high school.
Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to make sure, I think what I'm reading here for our juniors and seniors is 3 credits for math. The class of 2021, who went sophomores, need 3 credits of math, but if they're going to go to four-year college, they require 4?
For the students for next year.
So, yes, sort of.
Can you explain that?
Let me go back to that. So, the current practice is it's supposed to be 3 credits. The state currently recommends 3 credits, even for the graduates of 2021 and beyond. You heard the high school tonight speaking to, they want their 2021 and beyonds to now have 4. So I wasn't aware of that, I will tell you, and you do have Lester Arnold students to consider also with that change. It's something you'll want to think about. The Colorado Commission of Higher Ed recommends 4 years of math. So there's your difference. They're telling you that if you have intentions of attending college, 4-year college, that you should take 4 years of math, and you should follow that recommended column. Otherwise, 3 would suffice.
I agree with Mr. Senator Moreno. I agree with 4.
Mr. Schwartz, I appreciate that explanation.
Sure.
What I'm struggling with is, and I know not all of our students are, it's not in their plan, not for all of them, to go to a 4-year university. I guess the perception for me of setting a standard that is less than what is recommended, if you plan to do that, is a challenge for me.
Understandably so. When I heard the high school this evening, it made me actually consider, did I miss something here? Because I had researched all of these, the graduation requirements with surrounding districts, and then we pulled up some even just when I heard that, 4, and I thought, am I missing 4? Because when I researched it, it didn't say 4 for graduation, graduates from 2021 and beyond. So we pulled Cherry Creek as an example, and they still have 3. It's obviously the liberty of the board to exercise whatever they would like to change there. Our job is to make it happen.
And I have a question. If this was approved 10/9/18, why are you bringing it back to us again?
When it went through, it came to my attention that the column, so when you look down the first column and you see mathematics and see the 2 there, that column, some of those graduation requirements, I'm not sure what happened, and I will own that. Those are graduation requirements of class of 2005. So the column or something jumped, but I noticed it going down the line. So back in 2005, we had 2 math credits, and it's supposed to say 3, and that's what it's always said. That's no wild change there. It's just the columns, and we had a lot of lines there, and I think that was, quite frankly, my mistake with the number of columns we had and the corrections on that update. There's a couple of other minor ones. PE 1.5, that was from 2005. What we've been currently using is 1 PE credit. So that's why we have these minor corrections. It's something that we needed to fix because these are the graduation requirements that we've been articulating to students, and they've been practicing since 2006 to this point. Something I do want to make the board aware of is probably another potential change will be coming with additional language. I think it was IKFR, and that particular policy is the menu of options that the state, it's completely new, that the state requires of us. But I just went to a meeting as recently as December regarding graduation requirements, and the College Board is now recommending some minor changes there already. And I can share with you later what those are. It's a draft version at this point, but it speaks to a classic AccuPlacer test versus a newer AccuPlacer with different minimum score requirements to show proficiencies in English and math. So please know that there will likely be another change coming from the coming from College Board to the state for even another minor change to go to the menu of options.
Okay. Any-
Just one more thing. So I guess what I'm struggling with like a little bit is, you know, in the narrative around graduation requirements, we say the Board of Education strongly encourages 4 years, right? So if we strongly encourage it, then why not require it? But I do want to be sensitive to how this would affect students at Lester Arnold as well. I'm wondering, and this might be a question for you, Mr. Farrow, even if we go ahead and approve on first reading tonight, we can still make changes on second reading, and hopefully in that time, administration can meet with high schools, both high schools, Lester Arnold and Adams City, just to talk through what the impacts of that might be.
On math in particular?
On math in particular.
Absolutely, I can do that.
Okay.
Didn't we discuss this before?
We did. That's what
Sounds like-
Mr. Thomas was speaking to, but the word strongly in the narrative it was brought up before, and I can leave that, I can strike that. The board didn't weigh in one way completely or the other. I know Senator Moreno did voice that. It's whatever you desire.
Madam Chair, I just thought this language from the board's policy, BD, might be helpful. It directly answers Senator Moreno's, BG, that is, question. So it states that during discussion of a policy, an amendment shall not require that the policy go through an additional reading, except as the board may determine that the amendment needs further study and an additional reading would be desirable. So, I mean, you could even wait and pass it tonight and then decide you want to have another reading after next time. But since this is your first reading, you still have plenty of time to give it further consideration and pass an amendment next time if you want to.
Thank you, Mr. Farrow. I'm fine with approving tonight and giving that time for the administration to meet with the high schools and talk it through.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, may I have roll call?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Superintendent's recommendation, 2.1, no, I'm sorry, 3.1. Superintendent's recommendation, approval to purchase resources from Zahner Blauser for English language instruction in the biliteracy classrooms. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve item 3.1.
May I have a second?
So moved.
Discussion? Seeing none. Monica, roll call?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Moving on to 3.2, Superintendent's recommendation, approval for additional appointment to serve on the District Accountability Advisory Committee for 2018-2019 school year. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve item 3.2.
So may I have a second?
Madam Chair, I approve item 3.2 second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Monica, roll call?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Moving on to 3.3, Superintendent's recommendation, approval for Student Services Department to use funds for food/beverages. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve item 3.3.
May I have a second?
So moved.
Discussion?
Yes. Max, what do y'all plan on having y'all training day at?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Where you plan on having your training at?
We're hoping to have it January 30th.
Okay. In Adams 14 School District somewhere?
Yes, at the same place where our administrative retreat was held at Casa del Rey.
Oh.
They will not charge us for the reception hall, just for the food.
All right. I'm good now. Thank you.
Monica, roll call, please.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Moving on to 3.4, Superintendent's recommendation, approval to renew Barracuda service contracts for email filtering and archiving. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve item 3.4.
May I have a second?
So moved.
Discussion? Seeing none, Monica, roll call.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Moving on to 3.5, Superintendent's recommendation, approval of travel for an overnight competitive field trip by the Adams City High School varsity wrestling team on January 11th, 12th, 2019. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve item 3.5.
May I have a second?
So moved.
Roll call, Monica, please.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Okay, that ends that, but we're going to end it with communications. And I would like to, there's going to be a need to hold a study session after January 25th to review, discuss, and have a data walk for the second cycle of progress monitoring. And we need to know which date best works for everyone and what time. I think we have to go with the senator and Mr. Thomas.
Anything after 4 or 5, I'm good.
Generally, after 4 or 5, I'm good too.
Okay.
After January 23rd?
After January, so that would be the last week. Like January 28th on.
I'm good that week, whatever works.
Anytime?
The
Any day?
28th? You're saying the 28th or the week of the 28th?
Who likes it on Mondays or Tuesdays? You know, it's kind of hard when you come back to work after a weekend to come to an all-night meeting. So would Tuesday be okay? The 29th?
Yeah, I'm good.
At
What time?
4:30?
4:30, perfect.
Generally, that should work.
4:30. Monica.
Okay.
It'll
And
be right here.
then,
Where will it be? Here?
is it going to be here?
Yes.
Yes. That's 29th, 4:30. BOE. And then we have our Board of Education meeting for January 22nd will be at Adams City Middle School. So that's where we will all go. I mean, you know, we will all go. And then Monica will let us know on any further information we need for that. So, Dr. J, do you have anything?
I just have one that this Saturday from 9 to 12, Adams City High School, our EMO RFQ selection committee will meet. So
What
board
time?
members are welcome, from 9 to 12, Saturday.
I'm barely moving. Mr. Rolla,
What's that?
do you have anything? No?
Well, I guess we did. I don't know, I don't see no one here, but I would like, Mr. Thomas and I were at the ball game last week, and I was okay, but Mr. Thomas was freezing. And you want to know, is there something wrong with the heaters in the gym? Or is they didn't turn up the heat, or what seems to be, because seems like it's always cold. The gym doors could
Inside?
be open and you could walk by the lobby in that cold air, but you
Wow.
could feel it. So we were just wondering, are they broken, or are they not working properly, or?
There's not anything wrong with them. Sometimes they close off the heat when no students and staff are there. So probably just need to have better communication coordination as to when the athletic events are going on with the operations team, so we know staff and students are going to be there to make this. So I'll talk with the team and we'll make sure that doesn't happen again.
No, that's yours. I got one at home, but just bring it up.
Sean, did they ever fix the lighting?
I just asked them about that yesterday, and they said they're still coordinating a lift to get out there and fix them.
Okay.
But as of yesterday, it had not been fixed.
The lighting at the high school.
Yeah, but I think, well, Mr. Thomas and I was seeing that there was 2 lights out in the gym. So those should have been taken care of over vacation and
I agree.
And stuff, so take care of those.
It was supposed to be, the exterior and the interior lights were supposed to be taken care of over break, and they were.
Okay.
Madam, I'm sorry. I just have one more, and
Okay.
I apologize.
That's okay.
I had to read a student's number for an expulsion. Student number is 117-03392.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to ask the superintendent if he could supply the board members with a new organizational chart. You know, you gave it to us a number of months ago, but quite a few things have changed. And also, something that's very helpful to me is this, I guess, it's kind of a directory. And now, at this point, it's pretty outdated. And if we could have a new directory of, it's the, gives key positions, individuals,
Those
phone
are really
numbers.
good,
Yeah.
because even when I worked here, I
What's that?
used them a lot.
Phone started.
Oh, it is? Okay,
But I'll print one and put it in your.
okay. Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. The meeting is adjourned. Oh. Mr. Thomas has something to say about this book.
Oh, Lord. Three of us was sitting on the board when we got this final report back. And in this report, I believe, and I'm for sure, that we requested that everything in here, HR was supposed to get and get back with us. And I don't believe HR got back with us, especially one of my goals is the bully prevention. I am going to work hard and diligent this next year about bullying prevention throughout this district. And I would like to, I don't know if Mr. Farrow, did you get one of these books? I think Monica can give you one. But the surveys in this book, the bully prevention in this book, I think Senator Moreno just got one and Dr. Hyde got one tonight. But we did request everything for HR to do, and I don't believe it got done, Superintendent. So I'm asking you on the back pages, and my goal with this staff is to find out about the bully prevention in this district. I would like to know what's going on with the bully prevention. I would like to know the recommending training models we're using in this district. I would like to know from K to 12, what are we doing in this district about bullying? I would like to know everything personally we are doing in Adams 14 about bullying, and that is my goal personally, to find out bullying in Adams 14. So if any of my board members would like to join me, that would be highly appreciated. But I would like to know, what are we doing? And if I have to ask my board members to help with a advisory committee about bullying, I will do that. But we are going to take bullying by the storm in Adams 14. And we don't need an EMO. to tell us about bullying. So I don't want to hear somebody tell me, we got to wait for EMO. I'm the wrong person to tell that to. So thank you. Y'all have a good night, and I hope y'all enjoyed your vacation, and welcome back to Adams 14 and 11 o'clock. Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
Never had it that way.
Oh, my gosh. Go home. I didn't know it was that time. Adjourned. Good night. So,
Working tomorrow, don't we?
is it no or is it yes?
Yep.
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
I think I boo-booed.